Ugh.
All right, let's see if this works this
We're trying to
time.
stream live as opposed to just making a recording and then uploading it afterwards.
All right, let's see if this works this time. It is working. Thank God.
Supposedly.
Supposedly. Alright, so we are live with episode 20 of Cast in the Shadows after a 2-week hiatus.
A1,
So
stop sacrificing the chickens. It's working.
I'll add the beginning because I at least recorded the beginning part of it, so I can add that in post later. But let's just continue on. So we're complaining about the rock still, or we want to move on?
The rock. Long
Don't
and
buy
short
it.
of it is
Move on.
the rock. I'll just go over a top down quick overview. The Rock DS carries over all of the
Doesn't
downsides
solve
of
any
the regular
problems.
rock and does not solve any of the actual problems we have with it. And it's like, hey, we increased the inventory. Hey, we increased the inventory again. Hey, we gave it a longer range. Like, cool. None of these were problems with the rock.
It actually creates more problems because of that.
Yeah, it's like, come on. Anyway.
But yeah, you can see the rock on screen here. It's pretty much, it's no different than the regular rock that Data and I use in mining, except now it's a little bit different design, bigger wheels, and it has a little tiny seat that exposes the operator, and it's like the rock, but it's less.
But they increase the
less sensical. It's less sensical.
But the miner is still outside, so the range doesn't matter because.
So this way, if something goes wrong, only one of you lives instead of you know, you being fine in the normal version. It sucks.
So you wait till your partner's dead, then you take his body out of the seat, and then you stack a few more minables in the seat, strap it down, and then drive back.
Yeah, except that with the physics, they're not going to stay in the seat. You know it. Alright, but moving on to the patch notes at least. So 3.13, for anyone who doesn't know, it's going to introduce cave entrances, like the new Cave V2 system, which has like flyable and drivable cave entrances, FPS cave missions, ship-to-ship docking, sign distance field, shield tech, which essentially the shields hug the whole of the ship, and will adjust if you lose a wing or something. Reputation UI, new quantum sensitive and time delivery missions, which is something that they're taking from the Xenothreat event that they did, where they had exactly that, those quantum and time sensitive cargo. Now they're gonna have missions using the same stuff. We got pushables tier 0, so like carts and I guess boxes and shit. Mounted guns, force reactions and staggers, and then the new cyclone that we've ripped into a few weeks ago. As for known issues in the PTU at the moment, this is from the latest PTU build, so you know, this is going to probably change in like a matter of what you think, like 2 days maximum. When the new patch comes out. But players cannot use the pitch, yaw, or roll controls while flying the 100 series.
We didn't need those, right?
I need to see gameplay of that. Oh man.
Why am I moving forward? No.
Oh, you ever get? It's like oh my god. Remember the Blues Brothers scene where he glues the accelerator on their bus, so whenever he puts the pedal to the metal, he can't. His foot is stuck. He can't, put the brakes on, so the car just goes right through a warehouse and into the river.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty much that. Players may get a random crime stat when killing a bounty. Oh god, that's not fun.
Much known issue.
Yeah, these are known issues. I'm getting a lot of. I mean, I'm gonna keep this on screen. I'm not gonna read every single one of them, but
leaving a trolley in a doorway will clip through the floor erratically and can kill players.
Can you mean will?
Yeah.
Yeah. Feature updates enabled ship firing within the Port All-Star green zone. So like the Armistice zone, you can now fire.
Well, that's not a bug, though. That's intended.
No, that is intended. Yeah, that's a major feature, not a major bug.
Yes. Sorry,
this is not Bethesda. Bugs are not features.
Well.
Except for that one that allows you to live after you fall from like high orbit. Because that one takes skill. That's a bug that takes skill to pull off. Like you need to time just right your doing the animation for drinking and stuff as you land. Otherwise, you're dead. I know. I tried it.
And how many times did you succeed?
Once. Out of like, I don't know, 20 times.
Well, okay, Doctor Strange.
Let me give you advice if you're going to try this for some weird reason. Use a ship that has a med bay.
I mean, yeah, but if you're legitimately falling, I think if you had a ship that had a med bay, you would just go back to the med bay. So
Right, no, that's my point. Is use a ship that has a med bay. This way, you're not constantly getting a new ship out and going back and trying it.
Oh, speaking of which, shameless plug for my idea of having a terrapin that has the scanner ripped out and has a tier. What's the lowest tier? Fucking
0.
1, 3, whatever. Oh, whatever. It has the lowest tier med bed in it. I think that'd be awesome for search and rescue.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a bed that stabilizes but doesn't repair.
Yeah, because it's like boom, there you go, search and rescue.
I think that would be tier 3. Remember, I think it's like DEFCON, isn't it? Where like tier 0 is like fatal, like needs to be treated immediately.
Yeah, who knows?
Or tier 1, whatever. I don't know the fuck, but I know what you mean. Yeah, that would be cool.
Either way, rip the scanner out, throw a med bed in there, and there you go. I think that would be an awesome Terrapin variant.
Yeah, that and also a combat variant. I would love to see a combat variant too.
That's how it was actually initially marketed.
You know, rip out that scanner and put like a giant, I don't know, like size 4 turret or something on there.
Have it just be like a buccaneer turret.
Yeah. Why not?
Or putting rip the scanner.
Or no, it's Anvil, right? Just put a Hornet turret there. It's an Anvil ship. Just put a Hornet turret there. There you go.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you could do so much with it, but
it's such a modular ship in its basic design. It begs to be toyed with and messed with.
When did the Terrapin come out? Wasn't it
3-1?
So that was what, 2016?
18.
Ish. Yeah.
18? No.
Yes, because 2017 of December 24th, 2017 is when 3.0 came out. Finally.
Yeah, he's right.
So it had to have been 2018.
Because I would have.
Because 3.2 was when mining came out with the Prospector.
Yeah.
And that was in like that was Q2.
They keep changing their fucking ideas of what ship modularity is, because it used to be like, hey, as long as ships can have cargo in them, you'll be able to put, prisoner pods in the cargo bay, or beds, or seats, and then they're like, no, wait, we're not going to do that. We're going to have modules on ships, and those will be.
I hated that idea, by the way, the whole module. Yeah. I know a lot of people like it, but I'm like, no, I like the idea of, okay, you got a cargo grid like Cutlass Black, fine, you can just stack some prisoner pods in there, or some extra seats, or armor racks, or beds.
Yeah.
Like in retrofit the ship, make it your own,
Yeah.
If there's space for it, you should be able to put it in, not...
Exactly.
Nice. Exactly. Well said.
They should not be as good as a ship dedicated for prisoner hauling, for example, but it's enough to get the job done.
Right. Think of it as like, putting
constraints like power and stuff, right? Too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It's almost like, this is going to be a weird ass example, but it's like rigging a motor to your bicycle to get a motorcycle. Yeah, it's not going to be as good as a regular It's a dirt bike compared to a motorcycle. It's not going to be good as a motorcycle, but it still functions and it works.
Bike.
Just go overseas and you'll see some very functional motorcycle bikes.
No, that's exactly. But that's my point. Is that it still does the job. It's just not going to be as efficient as a motorcycle that was built for that purpose from the ground up.
Yeah, exactly. And I really hope they go back to that mentality.
Yeah.
I hope so too. Just because that's what we want, and we're the ones that are funding you guys. But also, it's the more sensible thing to do. Sensible thing to do. Yeah. It's more sound and logic. It's more, and it allows for greater gamoplay purposes. Like, okay, I'm doing these missions, so I can save up enough cash to buy the prisoner cargo modules to put in my Cutlass Black, right? You know, this way I have my makeshift Cutlass Blue. I don't have the extra weapon racks and the beds and such that the Cutlass Blue has.
You know, the light
or the lights or the extra weaponry.
Yep.
But I do have the cargo pod, so I can pretty much get the job done, so that I can then buy a Cutlass. And see, it keeps going.
Well, or like, I mean, among other things too, don't they? And also too, an interesting note. Isn't one of the I will say I usually do the lawful missions, but isn't one of the illegal missions where you have
to free some prisoners off a cargo? It's a prisoner transport on a caterpillar.
Yeah, but it's
a caterpillar
so
full of prisoner pods.
Yeah. Now, bearing in mind, yes, the caterpillar is supposed to have modules, so maybe they're still sticking with that, but.
But I hope that is a kind of return to the original concept of Star Citizen modularity. Actually, you know what? No, they can do this both ways. They can do it both ways. They can have it where if you have a cargo grid, sure, you can buy the prisoner pods and all, and the seats or the extra beds or the weapon racks, armor racks, whatever. And you can have 4 specific ships. You can have that modularity that involves the actual modules designed for the ship that we've talked about before, like for the Valkyrie, the Vanguard, and the Retaliator.
Yeah.
And the what's face too, the Caterpillar as well.
Modules on a ship. So a ship that actually has modules on it should be just as efficient as any other ship that's dedicated for it. Because at that point, you're swapping out entire segments of the entire ship to support X, Y, or Z.
It's modularity versus modules.
Yeah. So a ship module. So for instance, let's say if I have a let's say for example I've got a Cutlass and a Cutlass Black, and I go and I just throw in there a prisoner pod, wire it up to the power system and all that shit. Hey, maybe that's going to go and have a higher power draw on there. It's not going to be as good versus the Cutlass Blue, where it's like, hey, because it's when wired in properly and not just like an aftermarket thing, everything's stable on there. So that additional power draw or something would no longer be a concern because it's it's not a module. But like for example, compare it to a Caterpillar that had a prisoner module in there. That module should be just as efficient as any other dedicated prisoner transport for at least that module section.
Yeah.
Would be how I would think of it. So a module is going to be much more efficient.
I mean, look, you and I have talked
something to shove in a cargo grid.
You and I have talked about how we both want to essentially buy a bed, armor, and weapon rack module, cargo grid type thing, so that we can fit it into our Pisces, and our Pisces can now be okay. Great, we got a weapon rack in there, an armor rack in there, and the beds. And if it means okay, so you don't have the cargo space, screw it. I don't care.
Yeah,
that's not. I don't intend to use it for cargo, so that's not my concern.
Only one of the cargo, one of the 2 SU cargo spaces, not both.
Right. Like for instance, like if you get a bed, it would take up. Say the bed will take 2.
Yeah.
But you can get a bunk bed, and stuff like that.
Well, I would say you'd be able to have, because just looking at the actual physical size of it, that you can, and again, this would be my opinion. So it's like, okay, I've got one 2SU space. In that one 2SU space, either the left side or the right side, I could have a bed. Above the bed would be a singular weapon rack for like a rifle or something. I could put a pistol or something in there too, but it'd just be one weapon. Maybe it would have like a rifle and a pistol, but either way, it would just be like one loadout. It wouldn't be like 2 rifles or anything like that.
It would essentially be, because the standard weapon rack seem to be 4 weapons.
We'll just make it like a Navy rack where you lift up the actual bed mattress, and underneath it you have a coffin space that's about 6 to 8 inches deep, and you can put whatever you want in there.
Well,
and that could be a weapons rack.
Under the bed would be a slide-out armor rack.
So that would be where that would probably be more
right underneath the frame of the bed.
Yeah, you can have that.
Maybe you would have a weapon rack under there too. You could easily do that too. But so in one 2SU space, you would have one weapon, one set of armor, and your bed. Boom, there you go. Alternatively, the other thing I would love to see, and again, the same 2SU space would be 3 dedicated armor racks and 3 dedicated weapon racks. Probably similar to like how the Vanguards have them, to where they just like slide out, something like
Yeah,
that.
I was thinking that
Or
too.
your
Where, yeah,
3
it's like a
crewmates.
actual
So
closet.
that way you've got your entire away team. You can fully equip them. Boom, there you go. And then you still got the other 2SU space for anything else you'll need to do on that mission.
Hey, Victor.
Pick up, drop off, whatever.
I just want a pallet that fits it like a flat Air Force cargo pallet, but not as big, that fits in like that 1 or 2 SKU size, and you can stack whatever you want into it or on top of it.
Well, I mean, eventually we'll be able to do that. We'll be able to make our own containers.
Right, which I mean, you can do that right now, with depending on.
Well, yeah, but
actually, no,
like
you
it
can
to
do it
actually
right
be modular in the sense that like I've got this pallet that'll lock down onto any cargo grid that I place it on. But then what I put on that pallet, I can vary. So I could make it that bed, or I could make it an actual physical locker that you have to open up, or it could just be a box that I just dump shit into. Like my choice.
I think they'll keep it. I think they'll keep it to the box, because then at that point you're literally just like you're quite literally pulling like armor racks out of your ass, so. Or that level of gear out of your ass, and that's, I think they want to keep that to like you have to buy that and have it installed, and I'm fine with that.
That's what I'm saying. Like if you had it where you could say buy that locker, that that 3-gun, 3 armor locker, that would fit onto that thing, and now that cargo pallet is a weapons locker, or a gear locker, and it fits.
I don't
only
know
those
if they would do it quite like that. That seems a little.
I'm just picking that as a generic term. I'm just saying, like, they could. That would give you the option to build as necessary whatever components they decide on, rather than just going, here's a generic box, you can only dump 3 things in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think when they were talking about too with the physicalized inventory systems, they have been saying, so like for example, if you're like, hey, I found a weapon, I want to take the weapon with me. Well, if
speaking of which, I don't mean to cut you off, but I got to say this before I forget it. We need to hit up. They talked about that we are getting our persistent hangers. Woo-woo.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry.
Hooray!
But they talked about with the physical inventory stuff, to where it's like, hey, I found a gun, I want to take it with me. Well, for example, or let's say if I'm like, I have a pool cue, I'm going to take the pool cue with me. Well, if I were to go and just look at volume, of course, you could take that pool cue, put it in a wood chipper, take that pile of chips now, that has a certain volume. But obviously at that point it is no longer a workable functional pool cue anymore. So not only will volume be a consideration, but the actual dimensions of the object. So if you were to have
Is this a universe without Gorilla Tape?
Well, I mean, apparently not.
No, we got duct tape though.
Securely hold stuff. But they've said,
Yeah,
so like if you were to have a backpack like the Novikov armor, or like a big tall backpack, it's like you might be able to put a couple weapons in there diagonally, or maybe we'll be able to.
You should be able to fit stuff like.
And then temporarily they're not usable until we reassemble them, but those parts would obviously take up far less room. But you would have to actually have room for the dimensions of the object itself, not just have it be volume based.
Yeah, it's kind of like what I see Tarkarov has, and even Arma has, which is you can pick up a gun and store it. If it's a completely stripped down gun, it'll take up less space in your inventory. But if it's got all the accessories and it's got a couple magazines attached to it, it takes up more volume. So
Like if it's got a
what do you
longer
want to carry?
barrel, or if it's got a
a silencer, a scope, all that
well,
stuff.
And also too, it might be if
Different
you can go and disassemble weapons into parts. That might be an effective way too of like smuggling a weapon into a location.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, if you can break your gun down and maybe put parts, kind of scattered around your ship in locations that it just blends into a scanner.
Ooh, that's a really good thought. I like that.
Yeah, that's like, Let's go talk to the Medellin cartel and ask them how they've been doing stuff. I bet we could learn how to do a lot.
If they don't kill us first.
Right.
No,
That's
we
another
work
thing
for
too. Is just
Star
that
Citizen,
on a completely separate note, on the mention of like, I guess AI controlled body, entities in the game, like crime organizations and such. I do want to see a more like what we had with Xenothreat. I want to see a more active role with the different crime organizations in Star Citizen. In like, okay, we got just in a narrative sense in terms of missions and gameplay as well, like we had with Xenothreat, but not on that scale, not on like a whole here's a giant event thing. Just more like here's some missions, or like for instance the security post Korea mission where it's like, okay, dusters have infiltrated security post Korea and now they're running the place, we need you to clear them out. Take that, but kind of turn it up to 11, where it's like, okay, now they've taken it, we sent in a team to take them back, but we haven't heard from them since, and now it's like, okay, but now you have potentially friendlies in there that might be held hostage, or they could be dead, and then that mission can then lead to another mission where like these more interconnected missions, stuff like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We need more of a story-driven experience, or at least like event-driven experience of some kind, which we don't really have at this point.
No. Which is why, I mean, it's not why they're teaming up with what was it, Spirit Fire or something like that? Phoenix, for Theaters of War.
Phoenix Fire?
I'm gonna just scroll up because I have it written down somewhere like 3 weeks ago. Fire Sprite. Fire Sprite. That was it. Fire Sprite.
Those guys with the name and like the faces and the names,
the things, and they look like that. The thing. Yeah.
They got like the face and like the eyes and the ears. Yeah.
Alright, it's having a Windows 10 moment. I'll be a thing though. But yeah, so hopefully we get to see more of that.
We do. They did say, by the way, in the roadmap update they had earlier this week, that the
huge update, by the way,
which would be the Ninetales system lockdown event, that is coming close to completion. So we might be seeing that in at least a 3.x patch, or I'm sorry, 3. Were we on 3.13? Yeah, 3.13x patch. We might be seeing the Ninetales event. It might still be 3.14, but potentially.
Yeah, and here I'm just showing off the reputation UI that they have. I had the roadmap up now, but like this, because the reputation system is already in. They just didn't put a UI in, so that we can actually see our reputation with certain characters as well as groups and organizations like Ninetales or Dusters or Nova Riders or the UEE military or one of the Crusader Security. So it's like
they don't like you.
Yeah. Or even like, was it North Rock something, the bounty hunting guys?
Yep. So you can see, hey, they hate your fucking guts.
Or they can be like, hey, you're only level whatever with us. If you want, do more bounties for us, and you will get to level 3 instead of level 2 or whatever.
Oh,
because they have that bounty system.
On the note of the reputation system too, one thing I want to point out. Now, this was on the Calling All Devs that was yesterday here. So bear in mind too, this was Dev Talk, so this might
Star Citizen Live.
Or Sarah, yeah, whatever it was.
Same thing.
Anyway,
yeah.
So they were talking about stuff. So I'm just prefacing this with the fact that this could just be hey, it would be cool if we did, not necessarily yes, we are going to be doing this. I expect to see this at some point. So again, this could just be shit posting essentially. But they were saying, hey, if you were to go and the example they used was, hey, if you're working for a cargo company, you do some cargo missions for them. Let's say what was it? Hurston Dynamics? Yeah. So let's say you're doing cargo missions for Hurston Dynamics. They might at some eventual point with the reputation system, because hey, you've really done a lot for them. They might give you a Caterpillar branded with their name, and you would then be able to fly this ship. They didn't go into much detail on this, so again, not sure if this would be like, it could potentially just be a paint scheme. that you would have for a Caterpillar. But from the sounds of it, they're saying, hey, like they would give you either on loan, to
Like a
keep,
legitimate company ship.
whatever, but a company ship that you have ownership of at least for the time being. Maybe if you really piss them off, they'll ask for the ship back, or they'll send bounty hunters after you to reclaim it or something. Who knows? But it sounded like you would be given, hey, here is a fully stocked Caterpillar with our paint scheme, our logo on there, that you can now fly around and use for your own purposes.
Yeah, it's like having a company car. You have to deliver the car back at the end of the day, but you're using that car for the duration of your day job.
Yeah, so it's like I could definitely see it being to where it's like, hey, as long as you're in good standing with us, it's your ship. Now, if you don't do missions for them for a while, because they also did say over time reputation would decrease, because there's they don't want to make it a grind, but at the same point they want to make it so
you need to be active in order for them to actually it's just a matter of being active in their eyes.
Yeah, but it's like, but at least for the time being, as long as you're in their good graces, that would be your ship to do with as you please, as long as you don't piss them off or do things to lower your reputation in such a way that they go, hey, you're ruining our good name because our name is on that ship. You better give that back. So until you get to that point, it'll be yours to do with as you want.
Yep, and here you got reputation wide and persistent hangers.
Because also too, imagine like, hey, you've been helping the advocacy out a lot here. Here's an advocacy branded Avenger, Avenger Stalker, so that you can go and capture those bounties. That'd be pretty cool.
And then for like cargo runs and stuff, they could even have it where you have to bring it back within like a certain condition, right? Like
potentially. I mean, they can track pretty much anything in the game tied to the reputation system. So yeah, they could definitely do that. That would kind of suck, but it was like, oh, if you get a couple of things on it, we're gonna go because.
But I mean, at the same time, they wouldn't want you to be like, oh, here's a Caterpillar, just go and smash it into a space station or something, right?
Well, on one hand, no, but on the other hand, too. Let's say, for example, I'm doing a cargo mission. It's like, hey, we need this cargo transported. This 300 SU of cargo transported over to this other place, and there's pirates, there's all kinds of horrible nasties in the system you're gonna have to get past. And then it's like on the other end, so it's like you got like the media crew filming the ship taking off, and then like you got the media crew on the other end, and it's like you've got the ship, it's got like 2 out of 3 engines look like they're smoking and almost out of commission. The paint's all kinds of fucked up, burn marks across half of it, but it's still coming in. It's still got the cargo. They successfully completed the mission. Like it's like that'd be the kind of thing you would have on like your next company's like commercial or some shit, where it's like, hey, and especially too, not just the company that you're running.
Like it may not be pretty, but we get it done or something like that.
It managed to go and fend off all these pirates, and they still came in with the cargo, getting the job done. That'd be the kind of promo shit you would fucking eat up.
Yeah, it'd be like something like, it ain't pretty, but we still get it done, or something bullshit like that.
Yeah. You'd have the crew coming out, looking all heroic and bullshit. Yeah, right. But
guys, we are we're not talking about the elephant in the room though. The AI janitor.
Yes, with the mop and bucket.
Yep. He has gotten some love, it seems, with the new update.
Hooray!
They really did a huge roadmap update last week.
I still haven't gone through all of it yet.
I'm kind of scrolling through it right now. It's huge. Giant. Huge. It's gonna be huge. Audio. So you got javelin stuff. Pretty cool.
Also, looks like there's several unmarked items that are they're on the roadmap, but we do not know what they contain.
Yes, the unannounced stuff, I think. Trying to see if I can find one, but yeah, it's pretty much whenever you see something saying like unannounced item or something along those lines, that is something they have yet to reveal to us.
So they're internally tracking it, just we don't get to know just.
And they're showing us that they're here unannounced. So okay, for Squadron 42 makes sense.
Still doing something, but
it's like they'll show us. the progress of it, but we have no idea what it is.
400i.
Yeah. Banu Merchantman. No.
Honestly, that's probably going to be a while.
Oh my god, yeah.
I think.
A long while.
Yeah.
I heard rumor that we're not going to see the Bano Merchantman until Tony Zervac has completely wired the whole Quanta
I can believe that.
system because he.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was him, but it's being accredited to him as saying, basically the Banu Merchantman is all about Quanta. So until that's in,
Well, it relies on several things,
ship?
including quantum. It relies on NPCs, and it relies also on the Banu NPC, which means they have to get AI for them too.
That's a good point too. It relies on for at least the
2 different types of AIs: the human AIs and the alien AIs.
Yup.
Which I don't even know if they've started working on that yet. And if they have, not for Star Citizen, only for Squadron.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a while for just regular, because as it is right now, the NPCs are pretty fucking dumb as bricks. There's still a lot of work that needs to go into this, so
Yeah.
it's gonna be a while.
Real question is, I'm just trying to see if I can find like visual footage of Crusader in action, but I don't think that's in the PTU yet.
What do you mean Crusader and action?
Like the actual gas giant and people flying around in it. Because I know it's supposed. No, it's not. I'm thinking 314. Don't.
How could you?
Because I want Crusader, damn it.
You get nothing.
I've been waiting for 4 fucking years. Actually, it's been longer, but whatever. But yeah, no, I can't. Yeah, so what we got location-wise though, we're getting the refinery stations, non-commercial overlays. We're getting the Stanton system polished, so pretty much just making everything look nicer. We might actually, and that might also entail like new areas and locations within the Stanton system, like on existing moons and planets. We're getting new asteroids because they're moving over to new tech from the old tech, and we're getting the cave entrances, drive-in and sinkhole, which will be really, really fun, especially since they have companion missions, so FPS missions for the caves, which I am very, very eager to try.
Yes.
Shoot some stuff in the caves, and it's not just people.
People are scary.
Soylent Green is we need like Soylent Cave is people.
Is that how this works? I don't think that's how this works.
I don't know.
You will.
Daymar Green? We'll keep thinking of dumb names. But aside from that, the patch notes are pretty. I mean, they're okay, but it's not anything that we really didn't know before. Yeah. No major news. It's kind of just like, known issues. I mean, we can go in depth about the known issues, but like, there's really, I don't think there's no point. It's just, they know the issues. They're just telling us that they know the issues. That's good. That means they're working on them. One of the issues is character will suffocate for a few seconds whenever you change helmet.
Yeah.
Leaving a trolley in the door. I read that. Prowler wing feathers do not have SDF coverage, which is the new shield tech. So they're just working out the kinks of the new tech.
Inky.
Then we got major bug fixes. I want to see what is a glaring bug that needed. Our Side Constellation Andromeda should no longer be missing doors and elevators when spawned with livery green paint.
Oh.
Docked Merlin interactions should now show when Constellation is moving. Alt-tabbing out of the game and back in when it is set to full screen should no longer cause the image to become frozen. That's like a 5-year-old bug. I can't believe they're finally getting around to it.
So they say.
Replace me texture should no longer be present on the floor of the Lorville Customs Gate. Yeah, that's a PTU exclusive glitch. I think I heard I came across it once in the PU, but it was a very glitchy PU patch.
The
little red balls that say replace me or texture or whatever on it.
I used to see them all the time.
I see them in real life.
But that was like 2-3 years ago, so.
It might have been the patch note where I was talking. Was it like 2-3 years ago? That's around, I want to say like 3.7.
Actually,
latest.
You know what? I'm gonna say it was when the Herald was released. I saw it all over
the
the
Herald was released before 3.0.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going back to like 2.6, I think.
Yeah.
2.6.
Oh, yeah, like 2.6. Yeah, I remember one patch. It was
I think
those balls were like all over the system. Like no matter where you traveled to, you'd land and there'd be one sitting on the landing pad.
The best was when your head became one.
Yeah. Or your head disappeared.
Replace me.
Replace the head. No, wait. Fixed an issue causing ships to fall through a planet's surface collision after entering the pilot seat upon return from logout. Oh, wow.
Damn.
So don't log out on the surface of a planet. Players should no longer be missing the animation or get stuck in seats when using sit at multiple locations as a female character. I'm not going to say any jokes there. Fix an issue that can cause the player to let go of pushable trolleys when it wasn't intended. Are they going to fix that same issue with body dragging? Because that's an issue at the moment right now. In 3.12.1. Opening Mobiglass or equipping an item during medpen heal animation should no longer cause the player to pull out another medpen that doesn't work.
That's good.
Yeah. Hey, remember when you used to have medpens stuck in your hand like a cigar? Fix an issue causing players to be unable to interact with any seat in multiple vehicles if they leave it while in quantum travel. Wow. Alright, so yeah, I mean, it's going to be in PTU for a while. I mean, the testing focus only shows like half of what's going to be in 3.13. Cyclone MT, force reactions, mounted guns, pushables, quantum, the new delivery missions, reputation, signed distance field shield tech, ship-to-ship docking, FPS cave missions, and the new cave entrances. When there's more, such as the refinery stuff we just mentioned, the Stanton system polish, which will be last, obviously. Mining subcomponents, the mission spawn closets, which are still tentative, so it's looking like it might get pushed back, if I had to guess. The mission spawn closets. Reactions, vehicle names, and serial numbers.
I thought I heard them talk about that yesterday, and I thought I heard them saying it's probably going to go in.
It is?
I thought so. It could have been one. I know it was one of the tentative items they were talking about, and they were going, yeah, I'm pretty sure at this point it was just like one or two other things that was holding it back. And, but they thought like they were literally having the go-no-go meeting on. Yeah, I don't.
What about the Nova? Because the Hercules, Starlifter are both scheduled for 3.13 release, but doesn't look like
they always knew for those are going to be a 3.13X.
Right. Okay. No, that's a good point. Yeah, and also ship to station docking, I assume would probably be like a 3.13X. If I had to guess.
That I don't know.
If I had to guess, I hope not. I hope not.
I'm sorry. It was not the spawn clouds. It was the ship to station.
Oh, so ship to station docking will be pushed back. I mean, will be for a 3.13X.
On docking right now is going through. They thought.
Hey, look! At least we're getting it. You know, like Because remember, it was originally scheduled for 3.7, and it got pushed back, and again, and again, and again. 2 years later, we're finally getting it. On.
In the sun, on a bun.
Yeah, alright, so anything to add with 313, or... Because, none of us have played the PTU, right? So...
I played the PTU
There's
a little
something in
bit,
there
but...
about the hangars. I thought that's what they released.
There was. I was looking at the roadmap. Because the hangar thing isn't for 313, that was just on the roadmap itself. Find it, though.
I'm just curious what that's actually going to mean. Like, does that mean we actually get our hangars, like, by the types of ships, or are they just going to give us a random generic one that every single person's looks the same?
We don't know yet.
I don't know. I hope it's the hangars that the hangar models that you actually got with your ships. Like the Arrow View or the York?
I would assume eventually that'll be the case, but for the initial implementation, who knows?
And then what's the next problem that I see with that is, okay, so does that mean that that hangar is now going to lock you down to a specific place, i.e., every single time you start the game up, out in your hangar, i.e., you're not out and about in the universe. Does that mean that you start at that location? Let's say New Babbage. In your hangar.
If you were to log out in your hangar, if your hangar had a bed, I would assume so.
Okay. Now, if you start storing stuff, because the big deal is that it's persistent, does that mean you got to go back to New Babbage? I'm just picking that as a random location.
Yes.
Do you have to go back to New Babbage every time you want to add something to it? Or, how are they going to do that, is what I'm wondering.
Now, I would assume for the initial implementation, yes. However, they might also add something to where, for the initial implementation, they might make it to where you can just, when you call up your ship and you go to a hangar, they all have connected, they're all connected using a variation of the global storage or something like that.
That hangar just becomes your persistent hangar. It moves to wherever you're at.
Yeah, so essentially, each hangar is connected to the same back-end storage. So it doesn't matter if you're at New Babbage or if you're at ArtCorp or wherever.
Yeah.
That might be how they'll go with it. I would say that'd be a bit better initially until there's more of a thing. Because also, too, bearing in mind, down the line, too, it's like, okay, sure, yes, if, let's say at like full release, yes, I have my 500 submachine guns sitting in my hangar in New Babbage, and I just picked up another 20 submachine guns in this one mission. I want to add them to my stash. I don't want to head over there because I'm 15 systems over. What you can also do is you would be able to just have your, ship your guns over, or have a courier service or something like that, take them over there, and then they would get added to your stash that way. Or if I wanted to retrieve items, similarly, I could go and request, hey, I would like this item or this ship or this gun or whatever, move to my current location or this location, wherever, and you would just pay a service fee for that stuff to be moved. And then missions will be generated, yada yada yada. That's essentially how they said they want to eventually have it all run.
Yeah, they don't go into detail here with it, because all it says is work that grants players the ability to have their own persistent hangars. This will also bring changes to the cargo gameplay loop by allowing players to pack their grids manually.
Well, here's the other thing to think of is, okay, so they're going to give us a hangar, and it's our persistent hangars. But what happens when you bought 7 ships that all came with a hangar? Does that mean you have 7 hangars and they all have to be in different places? It should.
Yeah.
But is that what they're actually going to do?
I don't know.
Because that's a lot of assets that you think about database management. That's just adding so much more to your database management. Just one player having 10 hangars, Or do they do the magic and basically you've got one hangar that magically goes wherever you go?
I would assume for the initial implementation, you're probably only going to have the one hangar.
Yeah.
However,
But the long term is what I was thinking of. That
yeah, long term, I would assume.
I'd like to be able to have a hangar in the Stanton system and a hangar over, hangars in different systems that I frequent quite often that are mine, that are, have my persistent gear that I put in them. But I just wonder how taxing is that going to be on their system?
Yeah, who knows?
Food for thought.
Well, we'll find out.
And then
Next
I can
time
see
on
that getting
Dragon
fun
Ball
when you're
Z.
like, you've got 15 different hangars, and you're like, where the fuck did I put that one part? Is it three systems over, or is that?
They did go over that specific scenario, and they did say that so there's going to be a app where you can go and bring up all of your inventory, which show you everything that's on each of your ships, everything that's in each of your hangars, everything that's in each of your tabs, yada yada yada. So you can see exactly where, my unique gun is in this thing, or my
Like
500 SCU of this is over here, where you'll be able to see all of that in your Mobiglass app.
Okay.
So
darn,
thank goodness.
that would make
you
for some
aren't going to
funny gameplay, though.
Yeah, but at the same point, it would be fucking
Oh,
annoying to hey, I just spent 20 hours getting over to here, going through unimaginable horrors, and then it turns out I went to the wrong place.
Yeah. But I would also like to see with that, I'd like to see a courier service built in so that maybe you don't want to have to actually drive all the way over 3 systems to get that piece.
Like I said, yeah,
but
that'll be a thing.
You could say,
you
could type in your Mobiglass, like, hey, courier service, go grab that part at this location and bring it to me. And it'll cost you a certain amount of money, and it'll cost you a certain amount of time for it to show up. But, kind of like Elite Dangerous has.
That's part of the whole quantum thing that Tony Z was talking about.
Be a thing. They have said specifically that will be a thing.
Okay. But can I do it as a player and make money and steal shit out of people's hangars when they let me into it?
Really hope not.
No. And they did specify. They did specify that at least at this point, you.
Where's Chaos Cam? What have you done with him?
I like the idea of having at least some amount of storage or location or whatever that cannot be rated in some way.
Like it's protected.
So it's like I'm perfect right now. It's like if something's on your ship and someone goes and takes over your ship, hey, you done fucked up at that point.
Yeah, it's your fault that he took over your ship.
Or just have it that if if somebody does try and break into a hangar, there's just this massive AI security response that just comes in and cleans house.
Players being players, we'd be able to overcome that eventually, at least. So I am perfectly okay with the idea that hey, you don't need to worry about someone, coming in and grabbing your shit. It's like nothing's really secure. But I do have to wonder though, let's say if I'm like, hey, my stuff's over in X system, I want it over here in Y system, I put in a request that hey, I'd like to have this shipped over, and at that point, so that would of course generate a mission. They decide that hey, players will be able to take these missions, NPCs will also take them if no player responds on that mission after a certain time or whatever. I do wonder, is it going to be Schrodinger's item where it is your item up to the point where, for example, let's say an NPC goes and gets attacked by player pirates, and the player pirates go and shoot the ship up and grab the cargo. Is that actually going to have my actual item in there, or is it just going to have some generic loot in there, and then my item is actually secure until it actually gets transported to me, and then it becomes my actual item instead of it just being a generic box that if
I got an idea for that. Offer insurance, just like in the real world, where hey, do you want to insure this package? And if you insure the package, it doesn't matter how it gets attacked. your package eventually shows up where it's supposed to be. But
so
if
you're
you
saying
don't
I can insure
you
my
might be
now
able to actually
520
lose that item.
SMGs?
Yeah, that'd be an option.
I have 520 now, by the way. It's
it's
growing. I have a problem.
We know you have a problem. We know.
520? What do I need with 520 SMGs anyway?
You're gonna strap them on the outside of your Aurora, each with one magazine in there.
Belt feed the ammo into each and every one of them.
That increase your speed?
No. So you see like a fucking Idris, right?
Rig a pulley system to pull the trigger.
What's this stupid puny Aurora doing in my way? And Merc just hits. Merc just goes and has one of the fucking hatch doors open with a string and a bunch of pulleys, and he just fucking pulls the string, and just all of the submachine just.
You do know
they're going down in flames.
They're 10mm SMGs. You know that's like not gonna do shit.
Shut the fuck up.
I need like 500 more in order for it to be effective.
Star Blossom.
I'm just imagining the Aurora opening up with guns like a cartoon, like freaking Looney Tunes, right? Like it's like a gun with guns with more guns on
it. Is that not how this works?
Yes.
But, yeah.
500.
I just can't wait until I can start looting fucking NPCs on all the missions and shit.
Yeah, like armor as well as.
Armor, weapons, everything.
Yep.
Just why are all the bodies naked? Don't ask fucking questions.
So Fallout.
Hell yeah.
So whenever you leave an area, you just see a bunch of naked corpses.
You're just like standing in an elevator after like a big long mission shit. You just look over at there's like one guy in the elevator next to you. Just kind of slowly glance down, glance up, give him a once over, and just be like, "That's a nice hat you got there."
I think in the most recent DLC for the Outer Worlds, they had there's a dialogue option saying that there's this I guess you're going to a hotel and someone's asking for your bags, and instead of saying one of the options is bags, what bags? And it's like, I don't have any clothes. I just wear what I take off my dead enemies.
Still Fallout.
Yeah. Well, I mean, pretty much it's made by the guys that made Fallout, so. But normally in Fallout, you don't have a dialogue option that says, I just wear what I've taken from my dead enemies. The clothes I stripped from my dead enemies. So it is nice for that, and I think the previous DLC they had one of the companions had a dialogue line where he says, "Well, we're fine. We're good to helping ourselves to anything that isn't nailed down."
As you see, like his buddy in the background, literally like taking a painting off the wall.
This painting can sell for 5 caps or something like that.
Look, it'll help us have anything that isn't nailed down, and most of the stuff that is. Bob, get the hammer.
Yep. Alright, so moving on from Star Citizen to just other non-Star Citizen gaming news. So Twitch has now, this week, they changed their terms of service for misconduct, so that they can take action against you for something you did not do on Twitch.
Because, of course, why don't we have companies acting as police? Punish you for anything and everything you do, whether or not it's here.
Actually, Data and I talked about this last episode, how, because they did something to someone off, because of his activity off Twitch, which, they should have no jurisdiction, essentially.
If that streamer is partnered with Twitch in a way they're representing them, so I can see, as a
this
company,
streamer wasn't.
How they might value,
if they were partnered,
if they accept to it, or in the no, they weren't. Okay,
they were not.
I don't think they were.
Yeah,
no, it was just it was sexual allegations. It wasn't. It was never even proven.
This relationship.
It's not a question of whether or not they can, because they absolutely can. They're a private company, but I don't think they should be, right? Like,
well at the same point, it's like companies are, as we have seen many times over, pretty much as long as companies have been a thing. Companies are not in any way, shape, or form any kind of moral compass or moral pillar in any society. Look at any large company. You've seen they've done all kinds of shady shit. So it's, at the very minimum, pretty hypocritical and also way out of their own fucking lane for them to go and be going, hey, we, being the moral police, are going to punish you on our platform for stuff you do outside of our platform. Who the fuck are you to be?
So they say here,
sure, it's your platform, yes. However, at the same point, you are just a company. You are
not the law enforcement.
Dictator.
This is not like
you aren't the moral police. It's literally just giving more of an excuse for this cancel culture bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, this is so. What the guideline here, it's like our current guidelines state that in some serious cases where there is available verifiable evidence, we may take action against users for hateful conduct or harassment that occurs off Twitch services, meaning on social media, other online services, or even offline when directed at members of the Twitch community. So
in other words,
yikes,
they don't
man.
like at any time, if you have any kind of political opinions they don't like, expect to be booted off of Twitch.
Yeah.
Hey, I heard that, purple is the new hate color. I saw that person wearing purple on Facebook, so that person needs to be banned from Twitch.
Well, jokes aside, purple is usually associated with evil when you're doing artwork.
I mean,
that's not a joke. That's not a joke. I'm being honest here.
Yeah, I think
purple is usually in terms of art, like artistic
black
design.
And red is usually evil.
Well, red and purple depends. Like, for instance, take a look at comic book villains. Why are they all dressed in purple? Because artistically, purple is.
What about Hawkeye?
But maybe purple is cheaper ink.
That too.
I mean, typically that's not the case. But anyway. Yeah,
this is
corporate.
It's literally just them giving themselves an excuse to go and again be on this cancel culture bullshit, to where if you don't kowtow to whatever we, your superiors, say you should think, again being the thought police, then we will go and bring everything we can against you. Which, again, considering the actual actions of a lot of these companies, organizations, and people, pretty hypocritical and pretty fucking disgusting. In my opinion.
Yeah, this is... No, it sickens me a little bit, because this is just... Who died and made you king type thing, Like, this isn't your concern. Like, what goes on behind closed doors is none of your business.
Oh, and if it was someone who, for example, they're partnered, okay, at that point you actually have an.
You were pretty much like a Twitch employee, for lack of a better term.
But if you're Joe Schmo, and Twitter has decided, hey, we, for example, let's say if I'm a political candidate, and in my personal life, so again, I've literally. I'm separate from it. I keep my personal and business relationships just completely separate. And they go, hey, we don't like your politics. We're banning you. For what? Literally. And that's what they're saying they're going to be able to do. Because as we've been seeing with a lot of this shit, it's all about, hey, you better think the right way or else, like, for fuck's sake, you're a goddamn fucking company. Fuck off, stay in your lane, stop being a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, so they split it up here into two categories. One is essentially if something happened on Twitch. Obviously, Twitch has control of that. That's their thing. It happened there. But then if something happened off Twitch, we will now enforce against serious offense that pose a substantial safety risk to the Twitch community, even if these actions occur entirely off Twitch. Examples of these behaviors include, and then they have all bullet points of deadly violence and violent extremism, terrorist activities or recruiting, explicit and or credible threats to mass violence, i.e. threats against a group of people, event, or location where people would gather, leadership or membership in a known hate group, carrying out or acting as an accomplice to non-consensual sexual activities and or sexual assault, sexual exploitation of children such as child grooming and solicitation, distribution of underage sexual materials, actions that would directly and explicitly compromise the physical safety of the Twitch community, such as threatening violence at a Twitch event, and explicit and or credible threats against Twitch, including Twitch staff. So
I wonder
some of these are
evenly and fairly are they going to go and apply these standards?
Well, here's the thing: is how
we're
often does Twitch get this type of stuff normally that they have to make rules for it all of a sudden?
I feel like we're going back to or we're coming around full circle in the digital age to the late 1800 robber barons who controlled, whole towns and dictated with their own law enforcement and their own rules and even their own money that you couldn't spend anywhere else, only at their stores. I feel like we're doing the same exact thing, but it's just in a digital format now, which is
absolutely. I fully agree.
And I'm looking at us as a society and going, why are we allowing? Like, why isn't everybody else seeing this and just going, no, we've already done. We saw what happened last time. Let's fucking change it. But it's
bear in mind though, this is the same society at this point that will openly applaud racism as long as it's targeted at the right group, or sexism. When you have senators,
but here's what this whole thing is a laugh.
Applauding this behavior, saying this behavior, as long as it's targeted to the right group, it's A-okay.
That's the thing, and that's why. Thank you, because this is what I want to talk about. Is Twitch, like they're saying all these things. Oh, we need to, we're gonna take action against people that do XYZ when they also promote people that do XYZ.
Bingo.
Like all these, like the Twitch streamers that have the big like, for example, look, if you're a partnered Twitch streamer that has big boobs, they're not going to do anything against you. But if you're a guy that does, something along the same lines, oh no, we have got to take action on him. He's evil. He did this thing that we for some reason do on our own anyways. But whatever.
He was sitting there in his underwear.
Which is exactly the same thing as what they do. What do you think Twitch thought? Where do you think Twitch thoughts comes from?
If you wanted to clarify, if anyone's still ambiguous about our position here at this point and still listening, which good for you if you are, I guess. But if they were to go and make these standards and be like, hey, these are our standards, please meet them, and beyond that, everything would just be taken on a situation by situation basis and applied evenly and fair-handed. Sure, okay, absolutely, sure.
So
you're saying these are standards, sure. However, we are seeing more and more from large companies here, especially entertainment companies, that if you do not participate in the groupthink, if you have the wrong opinions, if you support the wrong groups, which are not hate groups or terrorist organizations or anything like that, you're out of here. But if you support the groupthink, you can belong to organizations that are doing what would be otherwise called terrorism, but you're A-okay because you're right think. You're participating correctly. So it's okay that
you're doing what the big man wants you to do.
Or people are being killed. As long as it's the right people it's being targeted to, say okay.
Oh, like I don't know. Say you have no problem. Like say you're on a Twitch stream, like I might do in the future actually, and that involves I'm speaking out against China and how they have Uyghurs? I don't remember. I can never.
The
I know. I'm just trying to get the pronunciation right. I can never pronounce it.
For all those who say that
pronounce it correctly, but they have fucking concentration camps. They're fucking concentration camps in China for Muslims, and it sickens me. And I actually know people that are starting to get a movement together to kind of to stop it because it's not right. Like especially because I'm Jewish and my friend that's doing this is Jewish, and she's like, hey, no, we can't. Like we shouldn't just stand by on our ass and watch this happen. We need to do something. And I totally agree.
Groups and countries and organizations that said never again.
Yep. No, never again until.
But we didn't think it would. We'd actually have to do anything. We just thought it would be lip service. Yeah, well.
So yeah, touching back on the Twitch thing though.
Yeah, we got off topic. Sorry about that.
I guess I probably wouldn't form an opinion on it until I see exactly how they enforce it. Because I understand.
Well, like I'm looking at the Q&A here, and it's interesting because like they're asking some pretty like the Q&A actually has some good questions like how will you guard against using users filing false reports using using an alias or just false reports in general, where they have no basis, because that has happened in the past. Where false reports have gotten people banned, where like they didn't do anything, just some nut job didn't like them or something.
Accusation is enough to get someone banned versus actually investigating, looking into it, and going, "Hey, did any wrongdoing occur? If so, okay, what should be done about it? Or if not, okay, then one, we should not be doing anything at the person, and two, we should look into who filed the report and why they did, and potentially was it purposefully done." And a lot of organizations never even go that far, not even close.
Yeah.
Whereas the mere accusation of wrongdoing is just.
And here's another thing, like here, this is interesting, where they will consider off Twitch, like non-Twitch evidence against something that happened on Twitch, which is again, this one's a gray area because it's like, yes, like if something did happen on Twitch, like yeah, it needs to be reported. That guy needs to be whatever the action you take against him is. But then it's like taking action, like he did something on Twitter as well as Twitch. It's like, should that qualify against something he did on Twitch?
Again, why are companies in general? I know why, but yeah, it's like, why are they trying to go and get into every single aspect of our lives that does not involve them? You're a entertainment platform. You should not be worrying about where I'm going shopping or what I'm doing on another platform or shit like that.
I guess to me it comes down to what are their motives, right? Because if their motives are being able to safely, like to say assess a brand risk, right, and then push that brand risk off their platform, then it's something that I can understand. But if what you're saying is their motive, then yeah, I can see where you're coming from. But I guess I'm not really clear on what exactly is their motive,
we have
right?
To see how they do implement that's just in the in the past. Yeah. What we've seen with this kind of shit has been, hey, we're just targeting people who do not have right things.
Yeah, with Twitch, it is very.
I mean,
not fair, I guess, with their ruling, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, Twitch is already really, really strict when it comes to music.
Yeah, they are biased.
So like for instance, if I play Halo on Twitch, sometimes the entire stream gets muted because it was playing Halo theme. That's in the fucking game. It's like, you kidding me? So like music, Twitch has a really sensitive DMCA when it comes to music on their platform, and now just seeing this, it's like and what sucks though is that Twitch has a better UI and it's more user friendly than YouTube for live streaming. However, I'd definitely say they're both varying levels of obscenity in their policies. Like here, they're talking about how for behaviors that take place off Twitch entirely, you must entirely off Twitch that fall inside these categories. So what? Say I haven't streamed in a month, right? But in that month, I said something, on whatever it was. Say it was in real life. It's like, okay, so someone's gonna use that against me and take my Twitch down? Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Well, and
if it's used for that, then I would agree.
We've seen this stuff before in the past, so I really do not have any trust left that this is not going to be used to just target people that the Twitch owners or moderators or whoever would be making these decisions
to essentially promote their own.
To promote their own agendas and shit like that. Because again, for the past probably decade now, we've been seeing this kind of shit, and it's only been getting worse. And the fact that they're now coming out with this shit, again, given just what we've seen in the past, like I said, if they do truly intend to honor not just the word of, but the spirit of this, and apply these measures equally and fairly to all people, regardless of any kind of, especially political opinions or anything like that, then I applaud them. And they would be one of the few organizations that would seem to have actual integrity. However, again, given what we've been seeing in the recent past, I don't buy it.
And here, this is a summarized version of the guidelines, because I put the link to the guidelines, by the way, in the chat. But here, Twitch said that those behaviors will result in enforcement action regardless of whether the target is a Twitch user or whether the person violating the rules was a Twitch user at the time of their offense. So, so say pretty much all you need to do is be a user at the time something happened in order for Twitch to get on your ass.
No, you don't even need to be a user then. If you could literally just be some Joe Schmo, and they'll just add you to the no-go list.
The company said it will employ third-party legal experts. That's scary.
Now, the person who reports you might not be a user now, but if they go, hey, we don't like, John Smith because John Smith said something, whatever, bam, onto the no-go list he goes. And if he tries to make an account and they find out, hey, this account is owned by John Smith, whatever, bam, out he goes.
Okay, and then here they have the company said it will employ third-party legal experts to investigate severe offenses when needed. Because we have less context around behaviors that occur outside of Twitch, we generally require that evidence of these activities is verifiable before we will take action. As examples of the evidence, it would accept Twitch sites links to public posts by the person in question, noting that screenshots could be doctored and would need to be verified by those third-party investigators. Those wishing to report cases can contact Twitch off-service investigations team at the off-service investigation team at Twitch, or OSIT. And here, the issue of how Twitch handles off-service conduct was brought to the forefront last year after dozens of streamers were accused of abusing or sexually assaulting people, in many instances with the behavior enabled by their prominence as Twitch streamers or partners. Which, by the way, a lot of those guys are still on Twitch, no problem at all, because Twitch, they make money for Twitch, and that's all Twitch wants.
Yep. Which, again, shows already that they're not adhering to their own standards.
Well, remember, how many stories we have to hear about, a Twitch streamer, shooting in his backyard randomly, or choking a cat, or punching someone, or flashing the camera or something, and it's like, oh no, they're still up there. Yeah, it was a whole hoopla in the news for a day, but the streamer's still up there. They didn't get any reprimands, they didn't get any bans, no whatever.
But like I said, I'm sure if you were to have some shit on there about a certain political party, good or bad, oh yeah, that's fine, or oh no, you're gone now. Okay, and honestly, maybe that's just my cynicism talking.
No, because I
would love to be proven wrong, but given what we're already seeing, I fucking doubt it.
Well, here's the thing. A GamesIndustry.biz investigation later in the year detailed numerous accounts of Twitch ignoring sexist and abusive behavior on its platform and among its employees. So it can't even properly fucking police its own platform. Now it's going to go out of its way to police you off its platform. Fuck that, man.
Yes. Exactly. Because, hey, look, don't look at us. We're going to look at you and pretend to be a moral authority here. Okay.
And it's funny because last week, 2 weeks ago, or whenever the last episode we did was, they had this whole policy change regarding hateful crime and hateful conduct and, hate speech and just, all that stuff, because that was when the Asian hate crime started, skyrocketing, and all these companies started, copy and pasting the same PR talk about we have to fight the Ameri-Asian hate and all that, and it's just like, okay, great, but you're not actually doing anything, you're just talking about doing something, and I hate that I like saying this.
Meanwhile, you're allowing the same.
Talk is cheap.
That you always have.
Actions speak louder than words. These are things my father taught me. Talk is cheap. Action speaks louder than words.
Essentially pandering to a.
And yeah, they're just pandering. Of course it is. It just here they said something that should make you feel better. They're not doing anything. They just told you something that'll make you feel better.
So yeah, like,
but while this is all going on,
change is normal. At worst, you know, prepare to have, because again, these companies now being the self-appointed moral authorities, prepare to have them dig into all your shit, and if you have the wrong thing, bye-bye.
Yep, and I do sincerely think that's probably what happened with our copyright strike on YouTube on December 18th, because we abided by all their rules, and we still got a copyright strike for something I don't even know what yet. It's been it's been going on 4 months now. I still don't know what the hell we did to get a copyright strike. And I think maybe just because we've been saying things that they don't agree with us. Although Twitch also, in March at least, they got 2.06 billion hours watched. And a lot of it was from freaking sleep streams. Apparently that's a thing. And the CEO of Stream Elements, which is like OBS kind of stuff, it quotes, in 1964, Andy Warhol released a controversial film called Sleep, which featured edited clips of his lover sleeping for 5 hours. The appeal among its fans were those rare moments where something happens, like a simple change in position. Who the fuck is watching sleep streams, and for God's sake, why? Like, here, like, when they talk about, like...
One, why are you watching someone sleep? Two, why would you film it?
Why did you film it in the first place? Yeah, but here, like, look... The U-log thing? The U-log thing I can understand, you know? The U-log thing I can understand. It's like a Christmas, holiday season type thing, and you can also be really creative with it. You know, I've seen like someone...
that's fine, but when you're recording a person also too...
there's just...
person without their consent.
I was about to say, exactly. Unless they told you, hey, when I'm sleeping, record it.
Yeah,
that's not okay, which is still weird, but at least they told you to do it, you know? It's still weird, but it's like, they told me to do it, so, they're obviously okay with it. It was their idea type thing, fine. But generally, that's not, unless you say that is the case, it really isn't.
It's definitely pretty fucking weird.
Yeah.
I think on Twitch, though, at least, it's like actually just streamers streaming themselves sleeping.
Yeah, no, it is. They straight up say so. Like they say here, watching I guess this is a streamer. I really, aside from I use Twitch myself. I don't watch anyone else on it. I think aside from Data, who's also on it. So because he plays games I don't have, and we're always helping each other. But yeah, apparently like he has a combined 1.5 million hours watched of him sleeping. In I assume that means like over a longer period than just a month, because that's a lot of hours to sleep in just 1 month.
Yeah.
Either that or I just sleep way too little.
So my assumption is they're saying like with how many viewers, like so watched hours, not per viewer.
Also, that may not be live.
Mass. So
it may also be live.
If 100 people watch,
like if you're rewatching it, 3 days
Mm-hmm.
later, or someone else is watching it, it's not live for stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Good point. Seriously fucked up. And Tillum29 says that sounds like an overreach regarding the Twitch thing, and he is absolutely right. Stay in your lane, man. Stay in your lane.
Companies that abuse their own people, let alone their customers and everything else. And we're supposed to, trust them with any kind of power of this level, and two, trust that they'll be fair and even-handed. When again, they've shown in the past that there's this person who's allowed these things or showed these things, but they make us money. It's fine. This person did something on a much lesser level, but they don't make us money. Fucking get out of here. Like, are you kidding me? And we're supposed to take their word on it. Okay. Sure.
Yeah, but moving on from the Twitch thing, though, we have news about Netflix. So this has been in talks for a while, but it's now official. Netflix lands streaming deal for Sony films, including Uncharted. So Netflix and Sony Pictures Entertainment now have an exclusivity deal where all Sony movies will, if they're in theaters, once they're out of theaters, they go to they'll go to whatever streaming service. So now they'll go only to Netflix. And this also goes for the movies that go straight to streaming services. So if Sony makes a film that's like, it's not going to be in theaters, it goes on Netflix.
Cool.
So this includes any movie, and this is for anything they make after 2022, or from 2022 onward. So that includes the Into the Spider-Verse sequel, any of the new Venom and Spider-Man movies, whether it's like the Tom Holland stuff and the Tom Hardy stuff, right? This includes also on all the video game adaptations they're working on, because they are working on a Ghost of Tsushima movie thing. So yeah, it pretty much look, it's on Netflix. It's not like it's going to Paramount Plus, which I don't think anyone has. So it's not it's not the biggest thing. It's just kind of like, great, more exclusivity, yay.
Because that's what everyone wants.
Yeah. They do actually talk about the Uncharted movie that's in the works, because this is a project that goes back to 2008. That's when it started, or first announced, and they're now on their 6th director to step down. That being Travis Knight. So they really cannot get someone to direct this film. Tom Holland was cast as Nathan Drake too, which is weird to me, because I'm not a big Uncharted guy, but I've seen enough gameplay.
Like Spider-Man?
Tom Holland, Spider-Man, yeah, the young guy.
I don't think he's as Nathan Drake. I don't think.
Exactly. I'm like, I don't think he fits Nathan Drake.
Like a middle-aged.
You know who would make a good Nathan Drake? Nathan Fillion.
Yeah, I was actually just
Buck from ODST. Yeah, Firefly
no,
guy. Yeah, he would be perfect as Nathan Drake. He's got the look. He's grizzled. He's that age now.
Drake is supposed to be kind of this grizzled guy, not old, but definitely like not in his like early 20s.
No, I'd say late 20s to anywhere in his 30s.
To like mid or
like Batman age,
Would be appearance-wise.
Like typical Superman Batman age, like late 20s to 30s.
Your typical like action hero star.
Right, like your John McClane or your what's face Sylvester Stallone back in the 80s type age. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're around your 30s or so. Mid 30s or so average. You can be, obviously it's like a little bit below, a little bit above. They can, use all the fucking.
And Xavier Morales, I probably butchering your name, and I am sorry. Says XRP on the launch pad, about to take off any day. Nice. But back to
any
this.
Day, but not today.
Any day, but not today. Back to this though. Yeah, I mean, look, an Uncharted movie would be really cool. It's like it's a video game version of Indiana Jones, but with more action.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much there's your movie type. It's an action-packed Indiana Jones movie in modern day. That's another thing. It was in modern day versus Indiana Jones was always in the 30s and the 40s. And Tom Holland, I just don't see in the role of Nathan Drake.
Yeah, I did. Well, I mean,
the dude's younger than I am.
Because he's in his what, 20s, like mid 20s.
I think he's like 22, 23.
So it's like I don't really see him. Yeah, like to my eyes, if he was like in his late 20s, like maybe that just as it is,
like 29 or something. Yeah, exactly.
Youthful looking, in my opinion. This is my
opinion. The dude looks a lot younger than he is.
For the role,
he looks a lot younger than he is too, and that's not helpful in this type of role.
With fucking makeup artists and all that shit.
Yeah, I mean, look, they could do some pretty, they could make him look the part. It's just this isn't anything against him. Just the actor is kind of short, and Nathan Drake in the games is pretty. I'd say like 5'10" minimum. He's a pretty tall looking dude. Again, I just think Nathan Fillion would be perfect for it.
If you go through with it, maybe it'll be good. But just personally, I don't want to see it.
Hopefully the story is fine or whatever. The original release date was December 2020, but then it got pushed back to October of 2022, I think. Oh no, and then finally, so it's somewhere in 2022. I don't think they have a fully realized release date yet. But yeah, so you got some Netflix, Sony team up for all their future projects, including the Morbius movie, because apparently that's a thing now, is making movies around the villains of comic book characters. Because Morbius is a Spider-Man villain. Like, he did eventually become like an anti-hero, but it's like I just don't
see super villain movies working. But the problem is that, especially because it's probably going to be an origin story, because most people are not going to know. You know, if you're going for like the Marvel audience, the DC audience, they're going to go, okay, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, so, Morbius, the living vampire. People probably have no fucking clue who he is.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like to my eyes, it's going to be something on like the bubble of like the Spawn movie that came out. What?
Oh god, in the 90s.
Yeah, it's like I expect it, just because, speaking realistically, most villains don't have as much potential as the hero. So it's like,
no,
for example,
that's why they're the villains.
Well, exactly, and it's like if you were to look at like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, it's like you have, of course, Spider-Man becoming Spider-Man throughout what was it, 3 movies or so, but you also see Green Goblin becoming Green Goblin, but it's tied in with the hero. It's not just Green Goblin.
Well, then you do have Venom. Well, you do have characters like Venom that I can understand getting their own solo film. But here's the thing: I thought the way they did it, the solo film that they had for him, because I didn't see it because of this. Because it's just, for me, it's jarring. It's weird. Like, you're gonna have a villain movie without the hero, and it wasn't just that. Like with Venom, Venom's origin is literally tied and based entirely around Spider-Man. Like without Spider-Man, there is no Venom. You know, that's why he's got the giant white symbol on his fucking chest and back. You know, like that's the whole point. By the way, for anyone curious, the Venom art I have on screen, I made myself. But you know, Venom is like, he did in the 90s. He did have his own 1994. He did have his own comic book title, Lethal Protector, where he moved to San Francisco. He came to a truce with Spider-Man, moved to San Francisco, and pretty much became like a lethal Spider-Man there. And, you know, went on his own adventures and stuff. And that's fine, but here's the thing is, that needs to be built up to. Like you have the movie where you can just do it in like, okay, 3 movies, right? You have the one movie for Spider-Man in black suit, gets rid of it in the end of the movie, then they tease Venom in the end. Right? You know, like, and you don't even tease it the same way the comic books did originally, where you just see the hand with the symbiote kind of form around the hand to show off a very familiar-looking gloved, black suit glove, and then you show off Venom in the next film, have Spider-Man fight Venom, and you can, you know, again, because this is a movie, it's not a comic book adaptation, you can kind of do something different. Like, okay, instead of them having a rivalry, you have Venom and Spidey kind of come to a truce or something, and Venom moves on. And then the third movie is now like, or a separate movie, spin-off movie now, Venom on his own, being a hero.
Yeah, and you could have additional movies after that if it keeps doing well, whatever.
And then you can continue that, like, okay, here's Venom 2, right? Where it's like, you know, you have Venom continuing his adventures wherever he is, you know, doing his thing, because that movie was successful and all that.
And one thing too, especially with a movie about the villain, is generally speaking, when you have a movie and it's like, okay, here's the main character, you want that main character to be someone that's relatable, because otherwise people are going to ignore them. You want them to be like, you know, even if they're like an asshole. Like, for example, if you were to look at the first Iron Man, you've got Tony Stark going through all that stuff, getting kidnapped and go through, and it's like, and he's an asshole. He's arrogant, he's narcissistic. You can tell he's got a whole lot of problems and a whole lot of baggage. But at the same point, they wrote a character that was still relatable to people. They can go, hey, I can understand this character. I might not agree with the choices they're making or the decisions they're making, but at the same point, I can understand them. Whereas with a villain, you have to write a villain very well, because the whole point is they're the villain. The whole point is you're supposed to cheer for the hero when they eventually come along and defeat the villain. And therefore, it's really hard to make a good villain to where it's like, okay, they're relatable. I can at least empathize with them to a degree, but I still want to see them taken down by the hero. And it's kind of hard to do that. And especially with what we've been seeing recently out of Hollywood, it seems like a whole lot of the writers have forgotten how to write good
Oh
characters.
my god, we'll get into that when we cover Godzilla versus Kong later, because that movie is just a cookie-cutter Hollywood movie. But anyway, moving on from the whole, Netflix-Sony partnership that's going on, I just figured it was worth covering under gaming news because they're doing a lot of movies based on their games. Like as I mentioned, the Uncharted movie they're working on. They got a Ghost of Tsushima movie in the works now. This isn't Sony, but I know that Ubisoft is working on an Assassin's Creed animated series or something on Netflix that we talked about a few weeks ago. But whatever. Moving on. This is gonna be the floor is gonna be all yours, Cam, because we're talking Mass Effect. Specifically, the Mass Effect remaster and the changes that you were telling me about. Hello? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yep.
Okay.
So, you were telling me the Mass Effect remaster did a lot of changes, aside from the butt shots and such from from the initial reveal. I don't hear you anymore. Yeah,
Yeah, I can't hear him either.
I can't hear. I doubt the chat can either. If I can't, the chat can't. So, alright. Well, and let's see what did they change here, because I know they changed the whole. There's a whole. I don't want to say controversy because that's being too generous to the situation, but there was a whole fiasco with butt shots in the game.
Oh.
Especially
Yeah,
with
I've
the
never
sexualized
played.
characters that are just made to be sexualized. Like here, there's a shot if you're playing as FemShep, you see up the skirt. They changed the shot. Here's a butt shot that they're referring to. It's like okay, it's you guys are making a mountain out of a molehill here. It's a butt shot. It's not going to end civilization. But it looks like they're making more changes. Let's see. BioWare detailed a number of those changes in a blog post. Cam, if you can't hear us, we can't hear you, by the way, just letting you know. Changes in the blog post that went up today, running down what players can look forward to in the updated games. Some of what it covers has already been announced. Fewer gratuitous butt shots, better handling in the Mako, sorry. Mako, I don't know, whatever, fuck it. But this provides a much more detailed rundown of everything from combat updates to overhaul of Mass Effect 3's Galaxy at War system. They're changing the gameplay. Hopefully for the better. Come on, alright, we're gonna come back to this while Cam's able to talk again. Because we do also have EA news. Speaking of Mass Effect, we got EA news. EA gets golf game exclusivity for the Masters. So, in light of Take-Two Interactive, who owns 2K, well, 2K sports games, securing the Tiger Woods rights and exclusivity, EA Sports PGA Tour become, and now they have the exclusive rights over the PGA for games, just like they do for NFL for football for games, and not the NBA, but
HB Studios is the developer
of
PGA Tour 2K21.
Yeah, but EA is the publisher, and they're the ones that hold the
I know
rights.
that's what I'm saying. They took over, right?
Yeah, they bought out the studio, I think.
Yeah,
they bought out a bunch of studios. Everyone's buying studios now. That's it's a new trend. Get your studios while they're hot. Imagine one says sound issues. Yep. You guys can still hear me and Kulias though, right? I wonder if I could. No, he's probably headset is dying or something. Cam, if you can hear us, plug in your headset. Can you type in that we can't hear him? While I cover this, but yeah, so they covered the right. They got the rights for the PGA tour, so now they have yet another sports franchise that they can monopolize on. Because it wasn't bad enough that they had Madden. Now again, if you don't play sports games like I don't, this isn't going to affect you. If you ask me, you don't need to play sports games. As long as you can physically play the real thing, why do you need to play the digital version? But I get for some people they enjoy it, it's fun, they want to, mix and match their, members, like I want to have Eli Manning on, the Cowboys or something, that'd be heresy, but something like that. You mix and match players with teams and make your own team. Understandable, Plus, kids like sports games, as at least they used to. So, again, understandable, but at the moment, sports games are just the same shit every single fucking year. To the point where they don't even change the graphics. They just change the names of the players on the teams, and that's
maybe
it.
Slightly update the textures.
Yeah,
slightly.
It's literally the same shit every year. And they had Take-Two had the gall to charge you $70 for 2K21, NBA 2K21, because games are more expensive to make now. Fuck that. But last month Take-Two acquired PGA Tour 2K21 developer HB Studios and signed a long-term exclusive partnership with Tiger Woods. Woods was the longtime cover athlete for EA's PGA Tour franchise until they made a mutual decision to end the 15-year relationship in 2013. EA made one more PGA Tour game with Rory McIlroy as the cover athlete after parting with Woods, then shelved the franchise. So looks like 2K now has the rights to Tiger Woods, and they bought the studio that makes the old PGA Tour games, like HB Studios. But EA still has the exclusivity rights of the Masters PGA Tour, the Masters tournament, which is like a PGA Championship type thingamabob. Think the U.S. Open for tennis, except for golf. Like the tennis is U.S. Open, it's that for golf, pretty much. Here, yeah, it's the PGA Masters Tournament, PGA Championship, U.S. Open Championship, and the Open Championship. All of it is owned by EA in terms of gaming rights. So it's kind of, I guess, like a retaliation of Take-Two getting the rights to Tiger Woods and buying the old studio.
Yeah. Just trying to buy up studios before they can
do stuff on their own, become successful. Yeah, this way they have control.
Exactly. Before they're acquired.
Speaking of control and buying up studios, no one's buying up studios like Tencent. I swear, they're buying Tencent. I have a list of the studios I know of that Tencent has bought. It is already at like 26. It's crazy.
Yeah, Tencent is it's an interesting company.
Yeah. I mean, you just replace Tencent with China or CCP. It doesn't really matter.
Essentially, I mean, yeah.
They're just not, the ones doing concentration camps for Muslims, but Tencent, I mean, China is.
Yeah.
Like, they're literally doing what the Nazis did to Jews in World War II. But no one seems to care. So much for never again. Camps. I mean, this past Thursday was Yom HaShoah, which is essentially Holocaust Memorial Day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
this is still an issue.
And it doesn't make sense how, like you said, that the world has all collectively decided not to intervene once again.
Amazing One says, yeah, third guy, nada. At least WrestleMania used to have different designs each year. Not anymore. Yeah, well, none of them do. None of the sports games do. They're all just copy, paste bullshit. That's actually a pretty accurate description. Copy paste bullshit. Copy and pasted bullshit. Because they're more gambling and loot boxes than they are game at this point too. But here, Tencent TiMi Studios reportedly earned $10 billion last year. The Call of Duty mobile developer TiMi Studios earned $10 billion in revenue in 2020. Tencent published its annual results a few weeks ago, with online games revenue representing RMB 156.1 billion or $23.8 billion in 2020. Router sources indicated that TiMi's proceeds accounted for 40% of the game revenue. TiMi was created in 2008, initially under the name Jade Studio, and is behind mobile hits Honor of Kings and Arena of Valor. The two titles regularly top the mobile spending charts, with Honor of Kings reaching 100 million average DAUs, digital app somethings. I don't know what DAU is. At the end of last year, the title was among the 5 mobile games to top $1 billion in revenue in 2020.
It probably means daily active users.
Oh, yeah, good point. That's understandable. 100 million daily active users. Call of Duty Mobile initially launched in October of 2019 and finally released in China in January of 2021. It made $14 million in its first week. By the way, fun fact, guess where in-app purchases, and more importantly, in-game app purchases, comes from?
China, yeah.
Yep. Like it was super popular there, and then they decided to bring it to the States. And now many companies like EA and Activision, Blizzard, and Bethesda, well, now Microsoft, because Microsoft bought Bethesda now. They bought ZeniMax, which means Bethesda. And they all rake in billions of dollars just through loot boxes alone. Forget like other macro transaction stuff. And that none of that money is like going. It's not like you can make the argument, oh well, it's going to the devs and the people that work on it, right? Nope, it's going straight to those executive pockets. TiMi Studios was the first China-based game developer to join UN-backed initiative Playing for the Planet Alliance in March. We talked to the studio earlier this year about why the company is making games for the players of tomorrow, not today. What the hell is this though? 502 Bad Gateway. I guess we're not going to find out. But anyway, moving on for more Tencent stuff. They helped bust world's biggest cheating operation. The Chinese police seized $46 million worth of assets, including luxury cars. Tencent collaborated with the Chinese police to bust a game's cheating ring that was considered the world's biggest. So for just a bit of backstory here, in China, gaming isn't like what it is in the States.
No,
it's almost like a job.
Cheating, like using cheats in a game is actually it's a legal
it's a federal offense almost.
Yeah, so you can be charged, and I believe
people hire others to play games for them. In China, like China games aren't games. They're like, it's almost like a, I almost want to say like a security type of paperwork type thing. It's fucked up. It's weird. And then you have to deal with the censorship on top of that with Chinese censorship, where you can't have any type of blood, no skeletons, no ghosts, you can't have dead bodies, no ragdoll animation, so if a character dies, they pretty much have to kneel down and then just vanish.
There's a lot of things.
It's really weird.
It's essentially up to their discretion to decide what is and isn't allowed.
Yeah, because it's their little world and they control it. So according to the BBC, the organization focused on various games including Overwatch and Call of Duty Mobile, which again is made by TiMi Studios, which they control and own, charging a subscription fee to its users worldwide for access to cheats. Prices ranged from $10 a day to $200 a month. It is believed that the gang made $76 million in revenue. The Kushan police seized $46 million worth of assets, including luxury cars in a busting operation nicknamed Chicken Drumstick.
Yeah, I know.
Something tells me that was translated from Chinese.
So for like people in China, a lot of times they're like, if they're selling cheats and stuff like that, it's actually like more profitable for them than working an actual job.
I mean, they live in a communist dictatorship where if you're not one of the guys in power or one of the 1% elites in the state, you are essentially suffering in poverty.
Mm-hmm.
And before someone says, well, how do you know? Simple. My great-grandfather lived in Soviet Russia back in, almost 100 years ago now. And I have recently read his memoirs, and he talks a lot about his time in Russia as well as Poland during World War One. Which he talks about the German occupation hours. But back to going when he was in Soviet Russia during before World War II with Soviet Russia and all that, where it's like, yeah, it sucked. Like he the first chance he got the hell out of there. And because he was poor, though, he just roamed Europe for like a year because he had no money. So it's not great.
No.
Oh, and add to the fact that he was Jewish. A Russian Jew was pretty much like, they were trying to kill them. Unless they were like unless they were contributing something to the infrastructure. Soviet Russia, and even before Soviet Russia, like just, I guess, the Czars, right? Russian Czars of pre-1930 Russia, they were also, it was very anti-Semitic. It's horrible. But moving on to here, the authorities destroyed 17 cheats and arrested 10 people across several locations, including one of the leaders of the gang. He was apprehended mid-January in Changsha, the capital city of the province of Hunan. And it was reported on Weibo, which is, I think, the Chinese social media site. It's unclear what exactly Tencent's role was in the situation, though the Weibo post mentions that the team behind the company's Guardian Plan, which aims at preventing cybercrime, was thanked during the press conference reporting the operation. And keep in mind, Tencent owns, somewhere between 40 to 49% of Epic Games.
I believe something like that. Yeah, I'm not.
I know it's at least 40,
but they do own quite a.
I know it's at least 40, so it's not over 50 or anything. But they still have that's a significant ownership of a company, especially a major company like that. Like, damn, you own 40% of that company.
Complete ownership over League of Legends, like Riot Games, the developer there.
Well, they own Riot Games now, so.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They own Riot Games. So
they also own
League of Legends.
They also own Rocket League. Right, no, Epic owns Rocket League, but kind of Tencent pretty much owns Rocket League through Epic. Yeah, and Epic, remember back, like, we're going back 2 years ago or 3 years ago now, but Epic had that whole scandal where it turns out Epic was spying. There was a third-party spyware and malware on Epic that was stealing your user data from pretty much every program on your computer, or like Steam and stuff like that, like your personal data, and was selling it to some third-party company in China, located in China. Like, they got that much detail, but that was it. It's like, I wonder why. It's almost like there was a Chinese company involved.
What happened to Cam?
I don't know. He's still in the chat with us.
Yeah.
It's a shame too, because he was the one that brought the Mass Effect thing to my attention. I still have no idea. Like, they changed some gameplay, I guess, but he knows more about it than I do. Oh well. Alright, well, still on the topic of loot boxes, as I mentioned before, we do have some more updates on war on loot boxes. That being, so, loot boxes reported structurally and psychologically akin to gambling. Finally, someone seeing the light. So the original story's links between loot boxes and gambling have been robustly verified by a new report commissioned by the Gamble Aware, a UK charity aiming at reducing gambling-related harms. So pretty much, it's a new study in the UK is deeming loot boxes as gambling because they're actually worse than gambling. I have gone into detail in the past.
Which, for anybody who knows how loot boxes operate, shouldn't be surprising at all.
It's pretty much like, think a slot machine, except you have no control of when to stop the slot machine, or at the very least, the illusion of control. You just click button, thing opens up with very bright, fancy, flashing lights, animations, and you get randomized loot. And the chances of getting something good are 1%. 1% are your chances. They have straight up said this.
Is you have to buy and use their specific currency, so it's hard to understand when you're doing it what the actual cost value is for what you're spending, right? Like, it's not like you're immediately going, okay, I'm spending 1,500 of these points, I know that's exactly this. Because a lot of the time it's like, okay, you spend $7 and you get 1,399 points, right? Like some random number. So it's designed in a way to, right, like, that you're not meant to, like, it's essentially gambling, right?
It is. And that's the thing too, is at least with gambling you're getting something that's worth real money. Here you can't like trade in, you can't trade in the digital goods for real cash, like some kind of cashback reward or something. You're just stuck with it. Mm-hmm. There goes there goes $5 down the drain or whatever egregious price that they have. So here's the study. Here's the final report. Don't worry, I'm going to put links to all this stuff in the comment section when the stream is done. Actually, I'll put some of it in the chat now, because this is worth reading if you have the time. But loot boxes, they're predatory. Especially since there are stories that we have from the UK. Here's a story from last year. We actually covered this. Cam disappeared. We covered this last year when this story broke in July, where the House of Lords was calling for loot boxes to be regulated, because if you remember back in 2019, they had the House of Commons with the whole that's where EA said no, they're not loot boxes, they're surprise mechanics, and they were similar to Kinder eggs and all that nonsense. So then it went to the House of Lords afterwards, and
I think it's ridiculous, and I think it's just in complete bad faith for anybody to say it's not gambling or akin to gambling. It absolutely is.
Yeah, and here they're saying like it looks like gambling and feels like gambling. It should be regulated as gambling. And this is from last year. So now going to the article that dropped
a week ago. That looks and feels like gambling. The entire concept of it is the same concept of gambling.
It is the same exact concept. It is actually just executed worse.
The idea that you might get something worth.
Yeah, it's that that feeling of you might get something from doing. It's the same concept of gambling, but in practice it is worse than gambling, because again, in gambling you're actually getting something real out of it.
Well, I mean, that's not to condone gambling either.
No, but my point is, like, I'm just pointing out the differences between gambling and loot boxes, and that is the only difference, the only major difference aside from digital and all that. No, take digital gambling compared to the digital gambling of loot boxes, and that is, in digital gambling, assuming you're playing for say you're playing for money, real money, you have the chance of winning some real world money, like something that actually has value. You have you also have, depending on what you're doing, like say it's a slot machine, then, well, if it's a digital slot machine, then you really have no control over that. But say it's a physical slot machine in a casino, you're the one pulling the lever. You're the one trying to match up the different shapes or whatever the hell it is to get the most out of it. With a loot box, you don't have that illusion of control.
Well, and I guess the other thing too is a lot of time with gambling, in a sense, if you go to a casino, a lot of the odds are like you would be able to calculate the odds of what an event happening, right? Whereas with loot boxes, it's up to the discretion of the company, and at that point they will never let you know, right? Like, you can theorize, but you'll never know what the actual chances
and they've said
are. So
it's like 1% out of.
It's deceiving, right?
It is deceiving, and it's and here the new research, commissioned by Gamble Aware charity, actually made some nice bullet points, so it's nice and simple for us to read. And that is and this is from the BBC, at least reporting on it. I already put in the chat the link to the actual report, like Gamble Aware's findings. And that is of 93% of the 93% of children who play video games, up to 40% open loot boxes. And that means that children are being exposed to gambling and then getting that gambling addiction. And again, last year we had a whole episode dedicated to loot boxes and digital gambling. And we were reading story after story after story of kids emptying bank accounts, not realizing it was money, or they realized what they were doing, but they were addicted and hooked. They needed the digital buzz, right?
They thought it would give them some.
And there's nothing, and sometimes, it's an addiction. Addiction is a disease. You can't help it. It needs to be treated like a disease. And if you have the power, just get rid of the cause.
The need for regulation. Yeah, hence the need for regulation, right?
Yeah. About 5% of gamers generate half the entire revenue from loot boxes. 5%. Because keep in mind, a lot of us were all on the same page here, where it's like, loot boxes shouldn't exist, period. But then you have like the whales that obviously are, either they have the money to spend and don't care, or they don't have the money, or they have the money to spend and they're addicted, or worse is they don't have the money to spend and they're addicted and can't help. And those are the guys that are essentially dictating how games should be made for everyone, because they have a digital gambling problem through loot boxes. Now, 12 out of 13 studies on the topic have established unambiguous connections to problem gambling behavior. So it's linked. I'm sure if you have someone that's addicted to gambling and you show them loot boxes and they play video games, they're going to be addicted to those too, and vice versa. Young men are the most likely to use loot boxes, with young age and lower education correlating with increased uses. So, I mean, that kind of just goes without saying.
Essentially just targeting a younger
demographic. And that's the thing is these
who are less likely to understand the value.
Loot boxes are like, because we know for a fact that EA and other companies use psychological testing and manipulation to get people to use loot boxes. And they don't tell you the chances of the loot boxes, or for the matter, like just grinding it out. Like there's no data. It's just, here, loot box, get stuff, keep doing it, give us money. And here, the reports said that many games use psychological nudge to encourage people to buy loot boxes, such as the fear of missing out on limited time items or special deals. Many games do ascribe discrete financial values to loot box contents based on purchase or resale price, suggesting that many loot boxes meet existing criteria for gambling regulation. The big spenders, the crucial 5% for the industry, can spend more than £70 or $100 a month on loot boxes, the report said. But those are not necessarily wealthy people who earn lots of money, as I just pointed out. It's probably people that have a gambling problem. Our research therefore demonstrates that games developers, unwittingly or not, appear to be generating outsized loot boxes profits from at-risk individuals. These are likely to include both people with gambling problems or problematic patterns of video gaming, but not from wealthy gamers. And here you have links to previous stories that, the kids emptied our bank account playing FIFA. I blew my parents' savings. EA loot boxes. I remember there was one specifically about a kid, like a 21-year-old, who blew his entire college savings, his own savings, on loot boxes. Among the author's recommendations... Okay, no, I'm just going to skip ahead of this. This is just... It's a problem. It needs to be addressed, and no one's doing... At least we're finally seeing some reports and stuff, but the problem is any action going to be taken? Here to talk, probability disclosure has already been introduced to the major game platforms. A new paid random item descriptor was added to the PEGI age rating system to inform players at their of their presence in games. Yeah, this whole warning thing that they're talking about is this. They're talking the whole a warning for loot boxes in video games has already been added, and it is completely useless bullshit because it just says in-game purchases includes random letters, random items.
Includes random items, which is just I said, it's not.
That's not being descriptive at all.
And especially so.
That is a loophole workaround. That is a loophole workaround, so they can continue to sell them.
Yeah, so if you're a parent buying your child a game, maybe you don't. Maybe if you've seen, hey, includes gambling or something along those lines. Right?
As a kid, my parents would read the ESRB rating thing. So they saw this, they probably I don't know, but my point is a parent looking at this will not get loot boxes. They probably don't know what loot boxes are, and if they do, this doesn't tell them that.
Purchases are so vague though. It's not with adding includes random items doesn't do it any justice. It's not like it tightens the scope. It is just such a vague thing to say.
Any game that has this type of stuff should be 18
or essentially gambling. It should be a clear message, right? Like it shouldn't be something that
it should say digital gambling or something included. I don't know. And for starters, it should not be rated because a lot of these games are rated fucking E for everyone or PEGI 3. When that shouldn't be the case. Gambling in the States, you have to be 21 to gamble. Should stand to reason that the same laws should apply. I mean, the same movie laws, like the movie rating laws for rated 17 or rated R, right? NC-17 rated R movies. Games are rated M for mature or PEGI 18. So why shouldn't any game with loot boxes should be rated? I guess I don't know if there is a PEGI 21 or whatever, but they should have a rated 21 age limit or 21 and above or something. I mean, loot boxes are indeed linked to gambling and X. I mean, it sucks. But that's this is their oh no, we already have the thing, the loot box warning label. Yeah, that doesn't work.
No.
First off, it shouldn't be like this. Put it along with language and violence. It should be up there with them. And this is from April 3rd. This is from last year. They haven't changed anything. Sorry, last year. Never mind. But also, Brazil launches an inquiry to ban loot boxes, so at least someone's doing something. Companies selling loot boxes could be facing a daily fine of up to $700,000. So let's see, they are National Association of Child and Adolescent Defense Centers are getting involved. Wow. So the inquiry targets companies that sell loot boxes, including Activision, EA, Konami, Nintendo, Riot Games, Ubisoft, Tencent, and Valve. Mobile games publisher Garena is also involved, with Brazilian publication The Enemy reporting that the firm has been asked to suspend its loot box sales until further notice.
I'm surprised that Blizzard isn't involved.
Well, Activision is owned. Blizzard's owned by Activision.
Blizzard. Yeah, I guess. So, Activision Blizzard. Yeah.
We call it Activision Blizzard, but technically Activision owns Blizzard, so it's under them. Should a ban be approved, Brazil is considering introducing fines for companies selling loot boxes up to Brazilian $4 million, which is around $706,000 US dollars daily. Yeah,
which is good to see a company doing something about it. But then there's,
I mean, hell yeah, I want to see people. They need to pay for their crimes, right?
Yeah.
What better way to hurt a corporation than to fine them? every time they do something wrong.
Yeah, but if these companies just say, okay, well,
oh, they're going to find loopholes and
we're not going to.
They're going to find loopholes. They're going to rename it,
and that's it, right?
They're going to rename it to like, oh, we're renaming them surprise mechanics or whatever the fuck.
Or like I said,
they could even just region lock it, so you can't. If you're in Brazil, you're not able to buy loot boxes, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that it'll do too much.
Here, but at least it's nice to see someone doing something.
Good. Yeah, it's still good to see action being taken.
Because Germany actually, dropped their anti-loot box campaign, which was disappointing to see. Like, I want to see more action being taken against these companies and hold them accountable for, the crimes that they've committed. And I say that in like a strange way, but like, look, how many kids, bank accounts being emptied because of kids not knowing better, or they're addicted, or it doesn't even have to be kids. It's like grown men too are also being, like, gambling addiction is a thing that happens to anyone, really.
Well, and I think so. I don't think gambling. I think so. As long as you're an adult who consciously you understand the risks of gambling and you're not at risk for addiction or you're addicted, then you can gamble safely, right? But that's not what this is. So I don't think it's...
No, it's not. There's no way to do this safely either.
No.
Like, as you said, like gambling, there's more to it than just the chance, the risk-reward factor. Whereas here, there is no reward. It's just risk. Like, you pay money, and then you might get something.
And that something doesn't necessarily.
And that something doesn't equate to any real world value. You can't trade it in to get something better. It's just you're stuck with it.
Your community or wherever you're,
Yeah, like at least with with gambling, like real world gambling, it's like, okay, you got something that has some real world value, and you can trade it in for something else. Here, you can't do that. Yeah, I think Cam's not coming back. But yeah, so moving on though, Nintendo, Xbox, and Ubisoft back digital-only E3 2021. So if anyone doesn't know, E3 will be happening this year, but it's going to be a digital-only event. Personally, I don't mind this because I've never went to E3. Not that there's is there really anything to do at E3? Excuse me, at E3 aside from playing the demos that they have available?
Yeah, I think that's the majority of it, demos and maybe
because aside from that, like
merchandise and stuff, I guess.
Hopefully, this means we won't get all those like really wince-inducing moments from Ubisoft and Sony. Well, Sony, I don't think is actually going to be involved this year. They haven't been involved in E3 in almost going on 4-5 years now. But apparently E3. But now we got, let's see, Nintendo, Xbox, Capcom, Konami, Ubisoft, Take-Two, Warner Brothers, and Koch Media will all be supporting and being involved in the E3 2021 digital-only event from June 12th to June 15th. Also Activision Blizzard, Sega, Bandai Namco, and Square Enix. Oh, no, wait, sorry. It's a strong lineup, but there are absentees, including Sony, EA, Activision Blizzard, Sega, Bandai Namco, and Square Enix. They're all going to be missing from it. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be interesting, because Square Enix is usually there. That's where they show off all their stuff.
I know.
The others have always done their own events, though.
I think Sony usually is.
Sony always ditches. EA has been ditching for the last 2 or 3 years.
I know Blizzard just has BlizzCon.
Yeah, and they have BlizzCon. So like the first 3 here, they've been ditching for years now. That's not expected. Square Enix is really the only one there that kind of stands out. Like, whoa, they're not going to be going this year. The Square Enix, they do like the Hitman games, and now the guys IO Interactive. They're working on a James Bond game now. The same guys that made the most recent Hitman games, they're working on James Bond games. So I wonder where we're going to hear about that now, because they've just been dropping like news things here and there. But Also, by the way, Hitman 3, Epic Games exclusive. So I won't be able to play it for a year. It launched, I think, like sometime in March, like early March, came out. I think, maybe. But yeah, and so for more than 2 decades, E3 has been the premier venue to showcase the best that the video game industry has to offer while uniting the world through games. We are evolving this year's E3 into a more inclusive event, but we'll still look to excite the fans with major reveals and insider opportunities that make this event the indispensable center stage for video games. Also, that reminds me, E3 2019, the ESA doxed everyone that attended, and on the ESA site, you were actually able to see these people's personal information, like their address, their name, their phone number, their email.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was like a glitch on their site, and like,
Jeez.
First off, why are you doxing these people? Second, why is your site super unsecure and shitty that people can just access this
that
stuff?
many people's information, you'd think it'd be a little bit more secured.
Yeah. It's been a challenging 12 months for the games event business, but E3 was under pressure even before the pandemic, with long-term supporter Sony announcing it wouldn't be attending the show last year prior to its COVID-related cancellation. PlayStation company joined EA, which also hadn't supported E3 for several years. Yep. E3 is just going to be like Xbox and then a few other companies here and there. The future.
Well, yeah, I think
it's pretty much going to be like, that's the major one. I mean, Nintendo too, but I'm not a big Nintendo guy, so I really don't care.
I think a lot of companies are starting to veer to having their own.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with that, honestly. Again, like, it's not like E3 was super great to begin with.
No, I mean, I've never been an avid watcher or anything of E3.
I think the last E3 I actually watched, Cam and I were watching the Bethesda conference in 2018 live.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely tune in if there's something that I know piques my interest, but...
Yeah, exactly. I'm the same. Like, was it 2019? That was the one with the Halo Infinite trailer, right? Because that was like the last one I really watched.
Yep.
And I only watched the Xbox thing for that. Like, I didn't care anything else. You know, if it doesn't interest me, I'm not exactly. I'm only watching things I'm interested in. I'm not like, oh look, gaming stuff. I don't care what it is. I want to see more. Like, no, like that was the problem I had with a lot of the digital events they had this last year in 2020 with all, like, you know, the future of gaming thing with PS5, the PS5. You know, it's like, don't care about this game. 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 Like, show me something interesting. And I was covering it for channel, but it's like, pretty much kind of bored. Like, the only good thing I like, oh hey look, Hitman 3 is coming out, cool. Like, that's when they revealed it, and it's like, nice,
there's something
cool. Hitman 3, I liked Hitman. The first one's really good. I still have yet to play the second one. I'm a fan of the old franchise, you know, like Hitman Blood Money and all that. Like, good games. I want to see more, but they just had a little trailer and that was it. Xbox also, like the Xbox event that they did right afterwards, the game showcase, where it's like they had Halo Infinite at the beginning. That's where the campaign. This was in July with the campaign demo that everyone criticized.
Yeah.
And then like 2 months, not even like 2 weeks or a month later, they announced, "Hey, Joe Staten's coming back, guys, and he's now the head of the campaign lead. He's the campaign lead." And then like 2 months after that, now he's the head of creative at 343 Industries. It's like, you guys need to get your shit together, because that game, you're making announcements that are normal in the like 3 years from release in the game's dev cycle, but the game's coming out later this year. Yeah, and these announcements are coming less than 11 months prior to the game's release.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out.
It was already supposed to come out, but I mean, they delayed it, and that's, you know, good. And they had that April Fool's joke where, you know, they're saying, oh, it got delayed to 2022. And when I first read that, I'm like, yes! And then it turns out it was an April Fool's joke. And I'm like, fuck. Because that would have been good. The game needs more time. And the problem too is like with all the Halo Infinite updates is they're showing off, screenshots and we changed this and we made it look better. Day-night cycles. It's like, that's awesome. Show me. Like, show me the gameplay. Show me like dev footage or something of the day-night cycle in action instead of screenshots.
Yeah.
Like Star Citizen is doing that more. Like, if Star Citizen can show me fucking gameplay footage, you can too, buddy. Then we also have, speaking of Activision Blizzard, they did a DMC. Here's a company that's just like YouTube. They abuse the DMCA. Digital Media Copyright
Act.
Something.
Here, I'll see. Digital Millennial Copyright Act or something like that, right?
Yeah, or I think Digital Media
Digital
Copyright
Millennium
Act.
Copyright Act.
Yeah. Millennium. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, they got a. Here's the original story. So here, DMCA news outlet for reporting in Call of Duty. So, pretty much a news outlet covered. Okay, a new map is coming out to Call of Duty, Warzone, whatever. There's a new map, and it was leaked, and they covered it. Yeah, Digital Millennium Copyright Act. There you go. And because a news outlet was covering a leak, which is what news outlets do, Activision slammed them with a Digital Millennium Copyright Act.
Yeah,
I've been hit by a bunch of those lately.
It's
for music videos, and it's like,
I was gonna say it's not a surprise to me considering how many companies abuse DMCA.
And yeah, it doesn't surprise me, and that's the problem, is that they abuse it like crazy. Activision,
like
Sony, Disney, I think is one of the bigger abusers of that.
Well, I think a lot of music creators, not even necessarily them as individuals, but their record labels.
Yeah, Every video I have that has a Halo soundtrack.
It hard, right?
Every video I have that has some kind of music or soundtrack in it, it is never the actual band or the artist or whatever. It's never them.
Yeah.
It's whoever owns the rights to the music. It's the record label. Exactly. Yeah.
And even if and a lot of the time, like I said, they abuse it in the sense that even if there isn't an actual claim for copyright infringement in a sense, they'll still do it because they know there's no.
No, yeah, and there's because here's the thing: a lot of the stuff I have, I'm not used, especially recently, they don't have the full track in there, and it's still getting hit. Hell, I have things that are like, okay, the main. And like I once did a full Halo playlist, like Halo tracks, and only like 3 songs out of the entire playlist were copyrighted. The main Halo theme, One Final Effort, and I think, could be wrong, I think Unyielding from Halo 2 may have been one of them, but I can't remember which one. Well, there was a third one. It's like, why only these? And 2 of them were from 2 different 2 of them was from one company, the other one was from a different company. And again, like I've disputed them, waiting to hear back. But it's like, these aren't like. First off, I'm not making this for, I'm not making money off of this. Second, you don't, this is under free use. This is under freedom. This is under the Free Use Act. And also, the fact that I got the music from another YouTube video, so. So it's like, come on. Yeah, YouTube is definitely a bigger one. Remember, we got that copyright strike in December 18th for the Die Hard 2 stream, and we were following all of their rules, and we still got it. We don't know yet. I still don't know why we got one, but we didn't make it to 8 minutes. The stream was down. Hell, it could have been less than 8 minutes because it wasn't. It was only 8 minutes in, and I realized, oh hey, the stream's not up anymore. The only time in recent memory that I've actually seen a DMCA being used properly is Frogwares using it against their ex-parent company. I don't remember the name, but these Frogwares is the developer that made The Sinking City. And they use a DMCA to take down an illegal version of their game from Steam, which was uploaded illegally by their ex-partner. Like, there's a good use of the DMCA. It's not being used as a power thing or to, establish your authority or to just make like 2 cents off of some schmuck's video. Looking at you, YouTube. It's just, we made a thing. We're still in a legal battle, and until that legal battle is over, it has been stated by both parties that we're not supposed to sell the game, and yet they're selling our game. We made it. It's ours. We can use a DMCA on it, and they did. A lot of these companies have been abusing and overusing the DMCA, and wrongly so.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I don't think it's any to anyone's surprise. When
and that's part of the problem.
Big company, and yeah.
When I say it's part of the problem, it's part of the problem because it happens so often. Like, the fact that it was a surprise that someone used it properly is bad. Like, oh, they used it for good. It was the first time I've seen someone use it for good. Like, that is not a good thing.
Yeah. No.
Like, I want to be surprised when it's used evilly, not for for the betterment of whatever. Like, just for good, whatever.
Yeah.
Although this is going to be an interesting one. So CD Projekt Red is moving to parallel development. So CD Projekt Red is changing up their development process for games. Because in the wake of CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077 backlash, they are now going to be working on multiple AAA games and expansions at once, same time, simultaneously. However, they're not going to be doing like, okay, here's an announcement, and then drip feed announcements about the game throughout the years. They're just going to work on the games behind the scenes, and then they're finally going to make the announcement closer to when the game is ready, similar to how Bethesda used to do it. So it's like, okay, we announced the game, within the same year that it's set to release, and then by the time you get the announcement and find out what the game is and it's coming out, you don't have to wait that long for the game to come out. So that's not bad. But I don't think that was the lesson that they took wrong with Cyberpunk. I think they definitely advertised more than they can actually do with Cyberpunk.
Yeah, they oversold.
They oversold it. Especially like you take that 2018 Gamescom footage. Like, there are features in that, as well as story elements that don't exist in the finished product. The story was very different. For starters, Johnny Silverhand, in that version, like, you hear a radio voice saying he died just last year, in 2076. It's like, whereas in the game he died in 2023. So, by the way, that's not a spoiler because it's part of the Cyberpunk 2020 lore. Which came out in 1996. But yeah, so they're changing up their development process. I think it's definitely a good, they definitely need to change. I'm not going to say, it's a good change, because only time can tell that. But supposedly they're working on the games that we know of that they're working on. They're working on The Witcher 4 and the multiplayer Cyberpunk game. And they have several updates coming out for Cyberpunk. They talked about some DLCs and stuff.
So I seen that they had released an update trying to fix a lot of things, but it's supposedly still pretty
Yeah, patch 1.2. It's not great. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's fixed this, fixed that," but it's like cops still spawn in behind you. They just don't spawn directly behind you anymore. They spawn like a block away, and then you see them running to you. You know, but because it used to be where they like if you had crime stat 5 stars, GTA, whatever, the cops would literally spawn right behind you.
Yeah.
And what was advertised was that the cops would be, you car chases, and eventually they'd send the Max Tech Squad after you, which is like the Psycho Squad, Cyber Psycho Squad, and that doesn't happen at.
They essentially just like you said.
They just spawn behind you and then gun you down, and you're dead. Which is a shame because I didn't do this in my playthrough. I haven't finished the game, but I didn't do this in my playthrough and like doing crime and stuff. But I did want the option for like a future playthrough of being like, okay, I feel like being a criminal. I'm gonna like shoot this guy, shoot that guy, and then chase the cops and steal a cop car. Drive around the highway being chased by a fleet of cop cars. Could have been cool, but nope. Like that's something I can do in like fucking Watch Dogs. The Ubisoft's Watch Dogs 2014, you can do that. Like cause mayhem and being chased by like 7 cop cars at once on the freeway. That's fine. You can steal their car and then being chased by other cop cars, and recreate Blues Brothers. You can do that, and that works in that game. Same with GTA and all that. Like you can't do that in this game, and it's advertised.
Yeah, like I said, I think there were a lot of expectations, and
they were overzealous in the entire matter. Yeah. But yeah, here and they talk about parallel development, making the shorter marketing campaigns this way. It's like the games will be announced closer to their actual release. And I gotta say, the whole that's another thing, dude. Marketing takes a significant amount of budget depending on the company. Like EA and Activision and Bethesda probably spend more money on the budget of the marketing and advertising than they do the game.
Probably, yeah.
If they don't, then that's sad because their marketing is better than the games. So, which is why people keep getting their hopes up and then disappointed instead of learning their lesson and not to trust you. Okay, so you want to move on to Godzilla stuff?
Sure.
Okay, so I don't need this. So pretty much Godzilla came out. Godzilla vs. Kong, it released, what was it, like earlier this week? Last week? I finally watched it. Do you care if I go into spoilers or no?
No, you're fine.
Okay, so pretty much story is Godzilla got shrunk. No, I'm kidding. The story is that they want to move. Was it some company needs an energy source for something? And it starts off with this podcast guy. Yeah, it follows a podcast guy. I hate him. I know, ironic, but I hate him. He's like a conspiracy podcast dude, and he works for this company called Apex. And they're building, pretty much spoiler, they're building Mechagodzilla. And he's trying to find out what they're building, because he doesn't know. And the facility he works at gets attacked by Godzilla, which is like the first, in this universe, the first time Godzilla attacked humans. And it's because they were testing Mechagodzilla. Like every time they test it, Godzilla knows about it and attacks
Oh,
them.
he just, yeah.
It's like an instinct thing or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Or like, yeah, because they use, for Mechagodzilla, I'm just going to jump ahead a bit, I do like that this version of Mechagodzilla, it's not like other versions, where here's just it's a robot to combat Godzilla. Like, they use King Ghidorah's skull. They don't say brain, they just say skull. They have one in the head of the robot, one in the head of Mechagodzilla. and the other one is just in a facility with a pilot chair inside where the brain would be. And because there's a psychic link between the skulls,
like some telepathic link.
Yeah, like there's a telepathic interface for the pilot in the skull to then psychically control Mechagodzilla. And obviously, because they're using King Ghidorah, it's naturally it's a Hollywood plot. The Ghidorah, it becomes a living computer, takes over, kills the pilot, and now it's King Ghidorah in a Mechagodzilla body. Now, because I wrote this down because I thought it would be a cool idea, because when I watched this, I'm like, oh, this could be a cool setup for, it's King Ghidorah, he's back, but now he's in a Mechagodzilla body. You can have this be like an interesting take on Mecha Ghidorah from the old films. Because originally, Godzilla kills King Ghidorah, but then he came back as Mecha Ghidorah, where it's more cyborg Ghidorah, where it's like he's got robot wings and one of his head's a mechanical head. What they could have done is to have it be, okay, here's a real Mecha Ghidorah. It's a fully mechanized Ghidorah. He's like somehow, got someone to rebuild him into his original body, but in a mechanized version of it, it's like a Mecha Ghidorah. And that would have been a cool take on Mecha Ghidorah, but no, they just killed Mecha Godzilla, or Mecha Ghidorah, whatever you want to call it, at the end of this film. So they're building it, it caused Godzilla to attack, and then you have it keeps jumping around. There's like 3 groups of characters. You got the bad guys, you've got the podcast dude, and the characters from the previous Godzilla film, Godzilla King of the Monsters, which I absolutely hated, specifically because of the characters. And then you have the head of Kong's resort, whatever, his caretaker, essentially, King Kong's caretaker, and she's introduced to this guy that wants to visit Hollow Earth, which is like this underground sanctuary or what, like it's supposed to be like the origin point of all these monsters.
Yeah.
So he teams up with the bad guys, the Apex guys, to launch an exposition there because they have the tech and the aircraft, which they call the Heave, which is just stupid. Was it Hollow Earth aerial vehicle? I came up with this while watching. I'm like, why don't you call it the Gravitational Reactionary Aerial Vehicle? Sounds cooler. And it makes sense. Like, you can call it the Gravlev for sure. I don't know. Like, it's like, because it reminded me, like, it's like Heave, really? Okay, in Half-Life, they don't call the HEV suit the HEV suit. It sounds stupid.
Yeah.
They call it the HEV suit. Should have called it the HEAV. Or the Hollow Earth AV or something like that,
Yeah, something, yeah.
Or just call it an AV, or you could have done like what the Toho Japanese Toho films did with Godzilla, and all the vehicles are named like X1 or X10 or something like that. Because here's the thing, they did get the goofy jumpsuits that the X1 pilots would wear in the original Godzilla films. They got that right. They just didn't get the cool designs of the actual vehicles down. That being said, the vehicles reminded me a lot of the Terrapin. So I like that. It didn't make, for a vehicle that's supposed to counter gravity or gravity fluctuations, it doesn't make sense for its physical design. But that's just me kind of nitpicking science and stuff.
Okay, I haven't seen any of these any of the movies really, so
they pretty much like it's like a car, but instead of wheels, it has like maneuverable jets. Pretty much the design. Where you would think, okay, this is a vehicle that's supposed to counter gravitational fluctuations. Wouldn't it be more aerodynamic? Or more importantly, hull integrity be super sound and its superstructure being very, very reinforced. But like the thing's like literally the size of a car. But aside from that, the film was very, very Hollywood cookie cutter. It was very. I mean, the monster fights were fine. They were good, but they weren't. You know, Pacific Rim was better. Pacific Rim was better. It was. I mean, here's the thing: the visuals for Godzilla and King Kong look great. Like Godzilla actually looks a bit more like his original Japanese counterpart here, like with the chisel-y, charcoal-colored face. Like they actually made his face texture look a lot more classic looking, and that was nice. He even had classic Godzilla-colored eyes, and that was a cool touch. Kong, I gotta hand it to the animators here because they're the ones that deserve the praise, and that is Kong's ability to emote in this movie is very well done. Mechagodzilla's design, though, left a lot to be desired. I mean, it was pretty much... It's ironic because the director was interviewed about his design for Mechagodzilla, and he references Transformers 3 as what not to do when designing robots. But he does do a lot of those flaws that were present in those films, in those the walking junkyard designs of the Bayformers. Not to say that Godzilla, it definitely looked more solid, Mechagodzilla, but it was very, very shiny, very CGI shiny looking. Mm-hmm. And it did have that kind of parts littered about look a bit to it. Honestly, it's never going to compare to that of the 2002 Millennia era Mechagodzilla, because that was awesome. For starters, Mechagodzilla needs yellow eyes. This Mechagodzilla had red eyes. Also, Mechagodzilla needs a jetpack so he can fucking fly. Because the original Mechagodzilla can fly. I did like that in this universe they're like, okay, they're trying to recreate Godzilla, but it's a man-made Godzilla, and I'm fine with that. Where it's like, okay, it has atomic breath just like Godzilla and all that. But the problem is, the reason why they need to go on an expedition to Hollow Earth is they need a specific energy signature, not a power source, an energy signature for Mechagodzilla, because whenever they test it, it doesn't work. Like, it works for 2 minutes, and then it just shuts down. So they go to Hollow Earth to get an energy signature so that they can recreate the energy signature to power Mechagodzilla. It's the science in this fucking movie is magic. It's
just movie science, yeah.
It's not even, because at least some movies have science that actually works. Or is at least comprehensible. This one is just magic, but they call it science.
Yeah.
And it looks like science, but honestly, those aerial vehicles that they have, the visuals for them made me want to vomit. It's like super, very Guardians of the Galaxy, glowy and colorful, and it kind of what a very, very generic Hollywood visual effects for all the technology, all of it. There were some good use of practical effects, like practical environments and sets, and those looked really good. But that's the thing, is you were able to tell what was fake and what was. But yeah, so pretty much this company's making Mechagodzilla. Godzilla doesn't like that. He attacks them. They then send people they send people to Hollow Earth, but they can't get there. They need Kong to lead them there, so that they can get this energy signature, because all the Titans have an instinctual knowledge of how to get there. Apparently, it's like a genetic memory, I think is the word they use. Okay, fine. So they get there. Kong leads them there but they're shipping Kong on a boat first, and they get which is a dumbass idea, because guess what? The water is Godzilla's home, buddy. And they get attacked by Godzilla. Godzilla doesn't like Kong, so he's fighting him. At one point, they're both standing on an aircraft carrier, which kind of means Okay, in the first film, 2014 film, Godzilla was like 5 times the size, or 5 times larger than an aircraft carrier. Like his dorsal plates would have ripped it in half. Like he almost swam into one in that film. Like here, he's able to stand on one. Like, this is, I chalk it up personally. I chalk it up to it's another Godzilla. It's a different Godzilla. We know there's multiple. Like that has been a common thing throughout all of the films. Like even the Toho ones. So it's like there's multiple Godzilla.
Yeah.
Depending on whether like some continuities, Godzilla isn't an ancient creature, but like created through nuclear testing. But in which case he's not a race of Godzillas. But usually there's a race of Godzillas. They've already established that with the opening scene in this universe with the 2014 movie. They show off a Godzilla skeleton. Like here is a long dead one, and in this movie they have a Godzilla skull in Hollow Earth, as well as the axe that you see Kong using in the trailers to block Godzilla's atomic breath. That is apparently a Godzilla dorsal plate. Like one of the back spine things. Like that, it's made of Godzilla, essentially. Like it's a Godzilla bone wrapped with a dorsal plate to make an axe.
Huh.
So it like glows blue and everything, like Godzilla's dorsal plates do when he's firing his breath. So yeah, they need Kong to take them to Hollow Earth, and they get attacked by Godzilla. So they decide, no, we're going to fly there. So they fly out to the Arctic, where one of the entrances to Hollow Earth is, and Godzilla leads the way. King Kong leads the way. They follow in with the weird ass, aerial vehicles, and then they are in Hollow Earth, and they do the whole thing where it's like, oh no, we lost power, and they're about to plummet to the ground, and then they show you fall like behind the tree line, then they just fly off like, oh, they're fine, like that trope, where it's like, oh no, they're gonna die, oh they didn't.
Yeah.
Because that's never been done before.
The big twist.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Look, I have no problem with reusing ideas, but my mentality on that is if you're gonna use an idea that's already been done before, you have to do. How would you do the idea? Like, what would your?
There's a difference between.
What would your take on this concept be? Like if you're gonna take the concept of AI taking over and ruling mankind or destroying mankind or whatever, that's fine. It's been done before. But it doesn't mean that it can't be done again in a good way.
Well,
because it depends on how would you do it. What's your take on it?
There's a difference between reusing an idea and using a cliche. I feel like.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This was definitely a cliche where it's like, oh, it just no, they're gonna fall to their death because they lost power. Oh, they regained power right at the last minute. And I'm sorry, but my first thought was not the cliche when I saw that was the speed that they were going. Because here's the thing, Kong went in first and started to fall, and then they lost power and started to fall, and they ended up passing Kong, who's a larger object with more mass and should have been falling with more speed. But he was able to, like, you saw him kind of going like a parachute, like a skydiving pose, and they're in a metal object that's just tumbling down like a teardrop, and it's like, okay, they're going faster. That means they picked up a fuck ton of speed. All the thrust in the world is going to do you nothing if you're only 100 feet off the ground. You're plummeting into the ground, and even say your thrusters are magic, and they managed to save you at the last minute. Everyone inside is now toothpaste.
Yeah, like the momentum carried through. Your organs are just
your organs would come out of your mouth. So that was just. And look, I get it, suspension of disbelief and all that, but the thing is, suspension of disbelief only goes so far.
Yeah.
The part of the suspension of disbelief is the giant monkey and the giant lizard fighting each other. Like, I'm fine with that. Like, okay, they're these ancient creatures, and everything was bigger back in the day, so sure, why not? Giant monkey, giant lizard, they go and fight. Giant robot lizard, sure, fine. But then when you're just breaking the laws of physics... just so blatantly for a stupid cliche, no less. An overused, annoying cliche. Anyway, they're in Hollow Earth. They show some very very beautiful shots of Hollow Earth. It's very nice rendered. The environments in this movie look stunning. They're very good. So the visuals are kind of like the Hollywood, the technology and all the human tech and stuff in this movie is very, and I hate using this word, but it's very fitting here, generic Hollywood technology. But the visuals, like the environments and the vistas, are very well done. So,
gotcha.
The monsters too, like Godzilla, albeit Godzilla is for some reason like 100 meters shorter, but he still looks good. King Kong still looks good. So they find some ancient temple in Hollow Earth. That's where they find the Godzilla skull with the Godzilla axe in the skull. And I guess it was made by previous King Kongs, like others like him or something. And so they activate something, or rather, first off, the bad guy's daughter, the corporation leader's daughter, the corporation CEO's daughter is there as part of the expedition team. She gets the sample so they can transmit the energy signature to the guys up top, in the surface worlds, so they can power Mechagodzilla. I guess it's pseudoscience to the max. And while they're doing that activates something that triggers the whole temple to kind of come alive, and weird bat creature, like vulture bat hybrid creatures start attacking them, and Godzilla is then alerted because right as this is all going on, annoying ass characters that you can easily write out of the movie and nothing changes, sneak into secure Apex Corporation HQ, stow away on I guess it's a Gravlev train, like a cargo train that goes from, I don't remember where it originated, but they go to Hong Kong, and the Hong Kong facility is where they have Mechagodzilla, and they go there, they see Mechagodzilla, that's where they reveal Mechagodzilla in the film, and it's uneventful, I'd say. Like, okay, you see Mechagodzilla beat one of the skull crawler creatures from Kong's Skull Island movie, and then power down because they have that power issue. But when this happened, Godzilla then starts going to Hong Kong, but right as he arrives at Hong Kong and starts walking towards the facility, they triggered a thing at the temple down in Hollow Earth, and he's all of a sudden aware of that. He's like, and they had there was a funny moment where he looks at the facility and then at the ground, almost like unsure of which one to attack first. Like, wait, I was gonna kill. Fine. He starts lasering the ground, and somehow in minutes is able to, not even actually, like in seconds, is able to laser from Hong Kong down to Hollow Earth. Atomic breath is very, very, very powerful, I guess. I did like that they were consistent. I did like this consistency where, because Hollow Earth, the ground is the sky and the sky is the ground. Like, it's essentially like there is no sky, it's just ground up top, and then there's another thing of ground on the bottom, and you can kind of jump from one to the other. Mm-hmm. If assuming you're going from one mountain to another mountain. If you jump from one mountain and there's no mountain below you, you're still plummeting to your death down there, or up there, or whatever. So they were upside down, I guess, in relation to the surface that they came from. So I like that they kept that consistency where, okay, the laser that Godzilla was shooting came from the floor, which would have been the ceiling. So there was that, and it was okay. I mean, you have the main bad guy daughter die, Godzilla kills her, King Kong kills her, like her whole ship they're trying to leave, like the power center and all that, and Kong grabs, they shoot at Kong to move him out of the way. He grabs the little ship, looks inside with a little eye, and then crushes it with his hand. And then you have The main characters get away after Kong leaves to fight Godzilla. They fight in Hong Kong. Godzilla wins.
I guess my question would be, to somebody who hasn't watched it, would you recommend it?
Only if you're a die-hard Godzilla fan, and not even that. It's just so. I'll get into like pros after this. I just want to finish the whole the plot. They fight. But then while this is happening, King Ghidorah skull takes over the Mecha Ghidorah, the body and all. So now Godzilla is fighting Mecha Godzilla, whatever, and Mecha Godzilla is beating the crap out of him. And then Kong's heart, his heartbeat's slowing down. He's dying from his fight, so they use the AV essentially as a why am I blanking on the word? The things that people say clear to. I'm blanking. Defibrillator. They use it as a defibrillator to restart his heart. So that he can get back into the fight. And then you have Godzilla and Kong teaming up to fight the Mecha Godzilla. Kong kills Mecha Godzilla, and then Godzilla kind of walks off, and he's like, "Yeah, we're cool, bro," and then just walks back into the ocean and goes. Kong goes back to Hollow Earth, lives happily ever after, along with the research team that went out, that the surviving expedition crew now is the research team stationed there. The CEO guy. By the way, what is it with Hollywood and making every bad guy for the last I haven't watched a lot of new movies and TV shows lately. The most recent stuff I've seen, really in the last 5 years, I would say. Or the last 2 years, I would say, is the Pacific Rim anime on Netflix, the Superman show, which I haven't been up to date with, that's come out, right, the new one, and this movie. But all the bad guys are always some old white guy with gray long hair and a beard. What? Why is it that all the bad guys look alike? They don't have any charm or charisma or anything. It's just they just all have gray beards and long hair. I sent you the pictures where it's you can see it. It's it's weird.
Yeah, just cookie cutter type.
Yeah, it's cookie. And that's what I say. And that's why I say this film is a cookie cutter movie. It is a typical Hollywood cookie cutter movie. Yeah, sure, it's got some cool visuals in regards to Kong and Godzilla and the vistas, but the environment. But that's about it. The fight scenes aren't great. It's not like you can watch the fight over and over type thing. It's kind of forgettable. It's not. It at times the movie felt a lot like a Marvel movie wannabe, which I absolutely hate. Just because I'm I'm a comic book fan, but I hate a lot of the Marvel stuff. Not because it's superheroes or whatever. No, it's just the movies are bad. They're just bad movies on their own. Take Thor Ragnarok. It's funny the first time you watch it, but you watch it a second time, none of the jokes land again. They're kind of one-hit wonders.
Yeah.
It's... Yeah. That's pretty much what it felt like. It felt like Thor Ragnarok, the movie. Again.
Something you can watch one time.
And for anyone that was curious, there is no after credit scene. But the whole movie, it's you got Godzilla fighting King Kong. I was never the biggest King Kong guy. I watched the original movie. That's about it. I have a very nice painting someone did of King Kong with what's face chick from the original movie. I'm blanking on her name, but King Kong grabbing her on the top of the Empire State Building.
Oh yeah.
But I love Godzilla, and in this film it was just very meh. I mean, it was very, very superhero-esque movie, but with monsters. And the human characters, now I'm not expecting prestige, Christopher Nolan prestige level of characters and deep plots and all that in a monster movie, but you need to have an engaging and interesting plot and characters, because unlike a Transformers movies where the Transformers don't need any human characters at all because they themselves have very human personalities and characters and can carry a movie on their own, with a monster movie like Godzilla, they're very limited in the way they can emote and portray anything, really. So you need the human characters kind of move the plot along and also serve as like the audience, essentially, in that film. And 2014's Godzilla did it better, where it's, okay, here you're following... Here's the thing is, they're very comedic, like, they're trying to be very funny and cartoony and silly in these movies now. Whereas what I liked about 2014's Godzilla was that it took itself seriously. Like, it was taking itself seriously as in, okay, how would the world react to a giant nuclear lizard attacking, mega cities? Like San Francisco or whatever. Or Honolulu, it's like, how would they react? And I thought they did a very good job at that, where, okay, the military is getting involved, is being set out immediately. But like, okay, we have a giant lizard and giant flying moth, on the loose. We're going to deploy the fleet, It's like, yeah, that makes sense. And the government's kind of working together to do that, and unites them. But here, it just all just falls flat because they're just trying to be silly. And the characters too, like, if your characters aren't engaging, there's no, like, at least for me, I don't see a point in watching. Like, if you're not...
Yeah, I mean, that's the core of the story, right?
Yeah, like, you can have a good story, but if the character is unlikable or you just, like, annoying, I'm not going to watch the movie because that's just self-torture at that point. Like, even with 2014 Godzilla, the character was not super strong, but his purpose, I guess, was where, like, the whole point of the film was he just wanted to get back home to his wife and son. And every time he tries, monsters are getting in the way and all. Like, that's a pretty interesting story because you want to see him get home, and at the end, he's there with his son, but he doesn't know where his wife is. You think she got crushed or something, and then you finally have the reveal, like, that she's still there, and it's like, okay, great, they're back together, happy ending. And there's a payoff. Whereas here, it's just, you got silliness, you got this podcast conspiracy dude that's just a complete bumbling idiot. He's him and the character that's from the last movie, the Maddie character from the last film, hated them. Absolutely hated them. Because that last film was horrible, because in that film, you're following this girl and her divorced parents, instead of, the government's trying to figure out how to prepare and stop the threat of this alien monster that can cause cause lightning storms just by being there, and rally other monsters to help it and destroy the Earth. Like, that would have been a better premise than what we got, and we didn't get it. So it's a disappointing film. It's not anywhere near as disappointing, at least for me, as King of the Monsters was, because I wasn't really looking forward to this one as much.
Yeah, your expectations weren't.
My expectations were not that low, were not that high. You know what? At least, and that's the thing is too. Like, I was gonna say, at least they didn't do the absolutely butchered version of Blue Oyster Cult's Godzilla song. Because that is a good song. The version they had in King of the Monsters was horrible, and in this movie they don't even bother. Like, audio is almost non-existent. Like, it's very. I don't really remember anything interesting. Like, no sound effects or anything that was, like, stood out. No audio tracks. All I can remember is just the horrible songs that they were playing. Like, there were some bad song choices for the score. Like, legitimate songs too, not like not the actual score of the film. Because honestly, the score of the film was evidently so forgettable that I don't remember any of it. Like, they didn't even use like Godzilla's iconic theme. That dun 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 dun. They didn't even use that. And that was something that King of the Monsters got right. I mean, they misused it, but the score itself, like the version of his theme that they used, was really good. I just think that they used it in the wrong area of the film.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's very. The fight with Mechagodzilla and Godzilla was okay, but again, it felt very superhero-y, as in like he's getting beaten up by Mechagodzilla. Oh no, he's gonna die! Like very cliche superhero movie.
Yeah.
The hero's losing the fight type thing. Like again, that's something they did better in 2014's Godzilla film, where he was losing the fight with the Mutos, but he was getting double teamed. One of them can fly, and the other one has mass that essentially ran at him as a bull. He was losing a fight because he was fighting two different enemies. But then he got the upper hand, and the way they did it wasn't like he's getting his ass handed to him like he's Captain America and the Winter Soldier or something like that, because that's what it kind of felt like. But not in the same way, because there's no emotional impact of here's his best friend beating him up because he's a brainwashed soldier now. So it was a disappointing film. Like again, I wasn't expecting a lot from it, but I was at least expecting it to have a coherent plot and interesting characters. Even if they weren't as engaging.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be comparing this film a lot to the 1995 Godzilla vs. Destroyer and Pacific Rim because they do a lot of things that are in this film and they do it right. Specifically, they do it better too, but they also did it right in that, look, take Pacific Rim. You have Riley Beckett and Mako. The two main characters, the pilots, the Jaeger pilots. On their own, they were they were boring characters, but they were engaging characters. And together, they were very interesting, and you wanted to see more of them and more of their interactions together. With Godzilla vs. Destroyer, first off, this is what baffles me, is how did a film with such a silly premise in 1995 pull off stakes and suspense better than this film? And that is because in this film there's really no stakes. There's no literal or figuratively. There's no stakes. There's no suspense. There's no threat or sense of the threat. Whereas in Godzilla vs. Destroyer, the threat is, to quote the English dub version of the film, Godzilla will explode. What? That's literally a scene in that movie. But they somehow managed to be like, okay, if Godzilla explodes, he's not only going to irradiate the entire city of Tokyo and the entire island of Japan, but he is also going to, wipe out the entire. The blast is going to be like 17 nukes going off at once and all that. It's going to be devastating. It's like, okay, so we gotta, find a way to either cure him, from his disease that's going to make him go into a nuclear meltdown, or we gotta freeze him. And there was that stakes. And there was like, okay, we gotta do something, otherwise we all die, including Godzilla. So there was that, and then you have the monster come in. Godzilla has to fight the monster and all that. But they managed to pull off that suspense, even if it was silly. There was still suspense, where this film didn't have any. What was the threat? Then Godzilla would be dead, and then you would have a Mecha Godzilla instead? One that doesn't mind killing humans? Really? That's not really a threat compared to, even in Pacific Rim, where we had alien monsters that, coming through a portal that were wrecking cities, destroying, and their whole purpose was to kill people. That was what they were made to do. It's just kill people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay, yeah, it's an invasion force, right? Aliens are attacking, but they're not attacking, as traditionally. That's another thing too, is that's an interesting take on the whole alien invasion concept. Instead of coming from, space, they're coming from the ocean. And they're sending giant monsters instead of, warships or something.
Yeah.
But in this, and that's the thing too, is both of those films had engaging characters, because Godzilla vs. Destroyer served as a sequel to the original 1954 Godzilla, in which Dr. Serizawa creates the Oxygen Destroyer device, which kills him and Godzilla. in that film. But then you have a second Godzilla in this continuity. You have a second Godzilla, like multiple Godzilla species, beings, like it's a species. And so this is another one, and his daughter or son, I don't remember who, but essentially the government's some guy's trying to recreate his oxygen destroyer, which, like, when he used it underwater, and it killed all the fish and Godzilla and himself. But like, if they use it on land, it's gonna be like, it might wipe out all life on Earth. It's that powerful type thing. It's like a nuke, but it doesn't. There's no radiation. It just essentially wipes out all life, like an anti-life type bomb. And it, obviously the guy trying to recreate it accidentally creates the Destroya creature, which is like a constantly evolving and mutating monster. But there they have, like, okay, you're following, I think, 5 different characters, just like in this film, just like in Kong versus Godzilla, Godzilla versus Kong, whatever you want to call it. So I'm using that specific movie as a comparison because you're following different characters in different scenarios. Okay, you got the guy that's recreating the Dr. Serizawa's work. You've got Dr. Serizawa's, I think, was it like wife or daughter or something, like family member. You got the guy that's involved with the family member. You got the government. So you're following all these characters, but they're all interesting characters. They have their own story that was actually well written. Like the family member doesn't want anyone to recreate Serizawa's work. Like that was work that even Serizawa's like regretted making. It was a bomb end all bomb type things. You don't want that again. And that's her motivation. Then you have the guy recreating his work, where it's like, I just want to help mankind. That's his motivation, and defend mankind. Use this bomb to help that cause. And then you got the guy involved with Serizawa's family member, who's, I think I gotta watch the film, but
yeah. So essentially, characters actually,
but like they're actual characters with motivations, with personalities, and they're engaging. They're interesting. And yeah, the premise is silly. Godzilla's gonna explode. But you know what? They managed to pull it off. Whereas here, they have I guess you can argue an equally silly premise, 2 monsters fighting. But it's like, it all just feels artificial. Like, it comes together very haphazardly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, the audio in the film was not great. Like, nothing memorable, aside from the bad music choice. The visuals were great, except for the technology, which is pretty much like magic. Really, the only good thing about the film is the creature designs. Like, the characters were probably the worst part, which is not surprising. It doesn't surprise me, but it still annoys me at how much the quality of writing and creativity has gone down over the like this movie, just writing quality in general for movies has kind of like taken a nosedive.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if someone watching, whether you're watching this live or watching this in the replay later or something, if you like this movie, that's fine. I'm not saying you can't. Like I point out, I liked a lot of stuff, like the designs and the concepts that they played with, just the poor execution, in my opinion. But that's the thing is, if you like this movie, that's great. Awesome. Enjoy it. Have fun with it. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying that I didn't like it, and you would be ignorant to say that the writing of this movie is good. Because it isn't. And that's the thing with movies in general, a lot of writing in general for a lot of media today, is that it's taking the nosedive. And I have a conspiracy theory regarding the whole, like, I call it behavior modification, where it's they give you crap and then they give you more crap. They know it's crap, you know it's crap, everyone hates it, but then they give you something meh or mediocre at best. But in comparison to the crap, it's great, and therefore resetting the standard for quality. And then and they're doing it in gaming a lot, specifically with gameplay features, where it's like you're going to get features in gameplay in video games where it's like, okay, I was able to do this like 10 years ago, but 3 years ago in the same game franchise or whatever, they removed it because it's like, okay, look, it's back, and then they sell you, and they use that as a selling point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the same thing applies here. Where it's like, okay, the writing quality is taking a nosedive, so this way mediocre is then great again, and constantly do that, resetting the quality bar. I hate it because, like, no, you have to. If something is good and it's like, okay, great, well, you know, this thing is so good, how do we top it? That's the challenge, is finding a way to top it. Like, at least to me, that sounds like a lot of fun. It's like, okay, you say you have this, you know, take Terminator, right? Like, okay, you know, AI taking over, been there, done that, you know, how would, you know, okay, so how do you top it? You know, like, how do you make a better version of it? Or better yet, like, okay, say you want to top it, but it doesn't have to be AI taking over, it could be anything. Just how do you make a better story with better characters? And that's the challenge, is constantly improving, constantly innovating. And I'm not seeing any of that today, aside from visual effects here and there. And I mean, again, like the monster visual effects were great. Kong looked great, Godzilla looked great. Even like the random like red shirt monsters looked really good. But in the everything else kind of looked like crap. Aside from the environments. The environments looked really good too. But, you know, the environment, the technology, you know, is very, like, you've seen it 100 times across a myriad of different Hollywood films. Marvel movies, random sci-fi, obligatory sci-fi film from 2012. You know, it's like, you've seen all of these special effects before. There's nothing new. There's nothing cool looking. There's nothing creative. Again, I liked the AV's basic design, just not for what it was designed for. Like, just not its use in the film. I just like the design of it because it reminds me of the Terrapin. That's the only reason why I like it. Because I like the Terrapin design in Star Citizen, and this reminded me of that. It was a very, very lackluster. It's a cookie cutter Hollywood film.
Underwhelming, yeah.
Yeah, it's underwhelming, and again, I'm not expecting, like, you know, Prestige or dark, you know, Batman level of conspiracy plot and all. Like, no, but I was expecting something along the lines of a traditional Godzilla movie where you have interesting human characters. Take the
some basic level of
like a basic. Yeah. There wasn't even like a basic coherent plot. Like in the original sequel to Godzilla, I think Godzilla Returns or Return of Godzilla, something like that. I think. I can't remember if this is the third movie or the second movie, because I always mix up King of the Monsters and Godzilla Returns or whatever. But in one of those movies, you have a pilot, like you're following a pilot character. He's the pilot of a plane. Godzilla attacks. They're on islands, and you're following this pilot character, and he's an interesting character. He has friends in the area, in the place that he works, and you know, the Air Force Base or whatever. And you know, he's at the end of the film, like, he saves the day, but I don't remember if he survives or not. It's been a while since I've seen the film. But like, that's the point, is I remember the character though, because he was an interesting character. And again, Godzilla is just not, you know, like, oh, Godzilla's just a monster, but in a Godzilla film, again, unlike a Transformers movie where the Transformers are characters themselves, Godzilla is really not. You know, you can't have a film where it's just Godzilla, or just from Godzilla's perspective, because that would just be unless you just do like 40 minutes of just non-stop Godzilla wrecking Tokyo or something. Like, there's no way that would work.
Yeah.
And another thing with the not the characters, what was I was comparing it to old Godzilla. But the film was just, it was very cookie cutter Hollywood blockbuster. It had some good moments, but it wasn't great. Oh, I remember. There was one character in this movie that I didn't like the character, but I liked, again, it was just poor execution on a outstanding concept. And this is a concept that Godzilla has been, and monster movies in general, have been doing like since the 30s. This is not a new concept, but it is a good concept, and that is having a human character that has like a special bond with the monster. Because I'm glad to see that return. You know, it was there with Mothra, the original Mothra's original debut in the Godzilla films. They had it with Baby Godzilla in Godzilla vs. Destroyer. Because there was a baby Godzilla in that film. You know, you had these types of characters, you know, human characters that have a special bond with the monster. You know, kind of like able to calm. You know, Hulk with Betty Ross, right? Betty Ross.
Yeah.
You know, you always have that type of character, and that it works because it's kind of that. It shows that the monster can be gentle and all that, and they have that with a mutant deaf girl and Kong. Like they have a relationship. They speak, apparently Kong knows sign language through her, so fine. You know, he's a giant ape. You know, works. But I like that. I like that concept because they use her to essentially get Kong to do what they want.
Yeah.
You know, it makes sense, but it's like that. I just like that concept because it's been a while since I've seen that in a monster movie.
Hey, I got some stuff to do tomorrow, and it's getting pretty
Yeah,
late.
and
So
I think I'm kind of done anyways. So, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the movie. Would I recommend it? If you're a diehard Godzilla fan, yeah, I'd probably, you know, just watch it, you know, kind of get your own opinion on it. You know, they do have Mecha Godzilla, although the design isn't great. It's no Heisei design, that's for damn sure. But it's interesting. I like, again, good concepts, just bad execution. Monsters look great. And it, again, not saying like no one can enjoy this, but for some people will enjoy it. Just people like me probably won't.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably rate it, and this is on the high side, I'd say 5 out of 10. It's just very mediocre. Very Hollywood
average.
cookie cutter. 5 out of 10. So, yeah, I think that's gonna call it for episode 20. Any closing thoughts?
Not that I can think of it. Like I said, I haven't watched the movie, but yeah, from what you said, it sounds exactly what you said, like mass appeal, just generally.
Well, and that's another thing I should mention. They didn't do the nostalgia bait galore that King of the Monsters did. So there's a plus there. Should mention that. Because like that was literally just, hey, remember this from that film? Remember, like, just like really, there's no context. It's just, here's a member berry.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. Yeah, so that's gonna wrap this up. I hope everyone, whether you're watching this live or you're catching this on the replay later, I hope you enjoyed and had a fun time, or at least informative time. And if you managed to get this far, you know, bravo. But yeah, so this will be episode 20. Next episode will be same time next week. 10. Well, we'll try to actually start on time next week, but 10:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday, which would be April 24th, which is my birthday. Cool. The next episode's on my birthday. Yeah. So yeah, we'll do a birthday podcast episode special. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, in the meantime, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. If you have, make sure you're still subscribed, because YouTube keeps unsubscribing people. We've had 5 people unsubscribed in the last 12 days. So, though that could just be people actually unsubscribing, but a lot of the times I get complaints saying like, "Hey, I was unsubscribed from by YouTube." I'm like, dude, I can't do anything about that. That's not my. I don't have control over that.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine if you had control over unsubbing people? Like, I don't want that guy subscribed to me, and you unsub him. No, but,
YouTube is really weird.
Yeah, YouTube's really weird. I mean, the first comment to the stream from Tahilm29 said, "Good to see you," and I had to okay that. Like, YouTube wouldn't let that go through. But yeah, and I just want to say, you know, thanks for showing up, Xavier Miles, Tahilm29, Robert, Megagenny1, and Victor Wolfong. You know, thanks for being here, guys. Yeah, and if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Tell us why in the comment section. Tell us your thoughts in the comment section anyway, because it helps the video with the algorithm, and I'm curious to hear what you guys thought of the film if you saw it. And on that note, I'm just gonna. Oh, and if you want to support us in a more personal way, we have links to our stores in the description. And because I put this in the thumbnail, I should talk about our sponsor, which is Bronx River Bottling. Essentially, if you have like a sauce or something and you need it bottled for merchandise purposes, like if you run a restaurant and you have a sauce there and you want to bottle it and sell it, or if you just have a sauce idea or anything and you want to sell a brand of your own sauce, contact them. Bronx River Bottling, it's pretty good stuff. Actually been there, it's cool. And I wouldn't be supporting it if I didn't use some of their stuff and myself. Plus, I want to support smaller businesses. Manscaped and all that. They offer sponsorship and everything, but they don't need the advertising. Guys like Bronx River Bottling do. So, help your local businesses because the government seems to be hating them with closing everything down and opening at only 25%. But anyway, so if you want to help support us, there's that. Plus, there's also the eBay store, which I have to put the Batmobile poster, the Batman poster, and the Spider-Man poster up when they're all done. We also have the Teespring store, which, if it loads, has some cool stuff. And Coolios, don't worry, I'm just going to do the intro, so you can head out if you need to.
Pardon? Oh, okay. Thank you. See you
guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, here you got the Teespring store, so you can get T-shirts, mugs, all sorts of fun stuff. But anyway, that's going to be it for now. Also, here's my Venom poster. So on that note, everyone, I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, this has been Mando, Merc of Coolios, Pulse Sign, and Cam of Casting Shadows. And remember to treat others